So is it Europa League or bust now for Mikel Arteta this season? This is over and over and over again, and we're live. Hello, my name's Richie. Welcome back to my channel over and over and over again, Positive Arsenal channel. Tonight, the panel, we're going to look at, obviously, Sunday's 11th league defeat of the season and also discussing whether or not Mikel Arteta can actually survive a defeat this week in the Europa League. Not necessarily this week in the Europa League, but obviously further on in the competition as well. Just want to introduce the panel. I just want to make sure you give this show a like as well, wherever you're watching it, and also subscribe to the channel on YouTube as well. I do put out quite a lot of regular content. It's usually fairly positive most of the time. Even sometimes it's difficult, but you know, we like to have a good discussion as well sometimes when things maybe aren't going quite so well. So anyway, without further ado, I will introduce the panel for tonight's show. It's a great panel actually, so it's going to be a really good show. First of all, coming back, he's a big friend of the show. He's got his own channel, Albert JTV. It's of course Albert. How you doing, mate? You all right?
Yeah, pleasure to be on, man. When you put the call out, Rich, I was coming, man. I said, no, I've got to come on Rich's show, man.
No, it's great to have you back. I know you was on the fan reaction show a couple of times as well, but not on a proper show for a while. So it's always good to have you back on as well. And another guy who's returning to the show, he's been on a few times in the past as well. Welcome back to Dorsey. How you doing, mate? You all right?
Very well, mate. Thanks for having me again.
No problem at all. It's always a pleasure. And making up the panel tonight, we've got it's his debut actually on the channel. Again, he's got a channel of his own. It's the Republic of Arsenal podcast. It's Anthony. Welcome to the show, mate. How you doing?
Yeah, thanks very much. Again, I follow your stuff really, really closely. So I couldn't wait for a chance to get on. And then especially when I seen the other panelists tonight, I was like, yeah, get me on here, definitely.
No, it's a great to have you on. I say I've been watching your channel as well, so you always have good shows going on as well. So you know, this is actually one of my favourite panels that I've had actually with you three on. So it's going to be really good. I'm sure it's going to be a good show. So that there is the panel for the show tonight, and this is going to be the we're really going to talk about Mikel Arteta's future really, and the Europa League and everything else to do with Arsenal. So we've got a couple of people in the chat. Joe there. Hey, Joe, how you doing? Thanks for watching. And also Gary from DWTT. He's got a channel as well, say DWTT. So check him out as well. I mean, really, I wanted to start on obviously Sunday's game. I know obviously me and Albert had a little chat about it on the fan reaction show after the game. I mean, for me, there was more negatives than positives, but I guess there was a little bit of both, perhaps somewhere along the way. The point I really wanted to look at more than anything was the lack of late goals that we seem to score under Mikel Arteta. I think there's only been 3 in the year or so that he's been in charge. 2 in the Premier League against Chelsea and West Ham this season, and then the FA Cup obviously against Sheffield United as well. I mean, wonder sort of why we seem to lack that intensity, I think, in the closing stages of games when we're losing. I mean, we've lost 6 times 1-0 this season, and 4 of those we've let in an early goal and not even looked like we was going to find a way back. I mean, if I come to you first, Nancy, I said since it's your first time on the show, I mean, why do you think that we are lacking in these late goals under Mikel Arteta? Because Arsenal used to be famous for late goals, didn't we?
Yeah, and like you said, look, it's not just the late goals. It seems to be just a complete lapse in concentration from the get-go. You know, we're susceptible to conceding within the first couple of minutes, right before half-time. As soon as we come out after the break, and then like that late on, we just don't seem to be switched on. And what I would put it down to, and I said this a lot, I just think it's a lack of leaders and a lack of real characters in the team. We just don't have we don't have enough serial winners in the side, you know. And I think our guys, the heads, they switch off far too easy, you know. Like against Leeds, okay, 4-0 up, they thought job is done. I know on another day that could have been a 4-4 draw. That could have been Newcastle all over again 10 years ago. You know, we just don't seem to have those characters, the serial winners, you know, the guys that drive the team on, you know, until the final whistle is blown. We've too many guys in the team that are just, I think they're just cruising by. It's a mentality issue for me. And look, I know the blame will go to the manager because he's the guy who needs to motivate them. At the same time, when you have certain players, I guess there's only so much you can motivate these guys. You know, you can do all your work on the training ground, you can do your homework, whatever. The guys have to do it out on the pitch as well. Like, Arteta's going to get a lot of criticism for the performances, but at the end of the day, you know, we only see what happens out on the pitch for the 90 minutes. We don't see the hard work that is being done on the training ground. So we just take it on face value that, you know, the team's not doing well. They're not scoring the late goals. You know, they're switching off, and Arteta's getting the blame. He could have these guys absolutely drilled every single training session, and they just go out on the day, and it's not happening. Again, for me, as I always say, look, manager is accountable for these things, but at the end of the day, I'm looking at the players.
Yeah, I mean, I think the players obviously play a major part. I mean, they're the 11 out on the pitch that have got to show, like you said, a little bit more passion and a little bit more right mentality. But I do feel maybe the mentality does come from the dressing room. We seem to start games slowly and we don't finish them strongly either. And, you know, sometimes we have good spells in the middle part of the game, and that's often where we win them. But we very rarely start well or finish well, do we? Which is, to me, is a problem. It's not just... I mean, the Manchester City game at the weekend maybe highlighted that more than anything, because we did both of those things in the same game. But that's not the only time that's happened. It's a regular occurrence now. And that's what concerns me. You know, what are they going out? What are they being told to do before they go out onto the pitch? That they don't seem fired up particularly. And I say, you're losing 1-0. Surely you'd want to throw everything at it. And we don't seem to do that. I mean, Dorsey, what are your thoughts about that then? Do you think that we're going, is it, as Anthony said there, that maybe the players haven't got that winning mentality, or is it coming from maybe inside the changing room before they even go out there?
Quite possibly. I agree with a lot of what Anthony's just said. I wonder whether there's an element of a fitness issue towards the end of games. We work a lot harder now than possibly we did maybe 18 months ago in games in terms of pressing and trying to win the ball back. So maybe that's, I mean, the guy should be fit enough that 6 months working on pressing, that it shouldn't be too much. It shouldn't be too difficult for him to do. But maybe there's a fitness element there. But I do struggle with why we start games so slowly. I can't really put a finger on what causes that. And I think maybe going back to Anthony's point, if you had a Patrick Vieira or a Tony Adams in that team, someone in that dressing room as they go out to start a game, you're telling me that they're going to start a game like that? I think maybe there is they won't, would they? It wouldn't. Tony Adams wouldn't let them because he'd be straight up them. So I definitely think there's a lack of leadership, and we've been saying that for how many years, where we've had a real lack of leadership. But I think maybe that's something that could be a big factor as to why we start games so slowly. But I'm not sure why we end games. We do look slow. We do look sluggish. Maybe it's an element of a few different things. We all know it's been a very poor season. Maybe because we're losing games, maybe it's a confidence thing. Maybe they think, well, the game's done, and maybe they're struggling to get that second win to really have a final push. I don't know, but it's more of a concern why we start games slowly. That's my main concern, because the chances are, if we don't start like that, we might not need to push so hard at the end of games to get equalisers or late winners. So I think the first thing you need to try and combat is starting the games quicker. Because when we do we have done it a couple of times, and when we do that, we look a different team for the whole game. So, but I think ultimately starting the game slowly comes down to a lack of leadership. That's what I think.
Or possibly a lack of preparation, couldn't it? You know, before they go out onto the pitch, like you said. I mean, Tony Adams and Patrick Vieira and those guys, they would have got the team fired up in the changing rooms, wouldn't they, before they even went out onto the pitch? And yes, you need those characters in the players as well. But if the players aren't going to do it, somebody's got to do it. And surely that comes down to the manager or the coach or the second in charge, whoever it might be. Somebody in that changing room has got to get them fired up before they come out. And you know, and it doesn't seem to be happening. And it's, you know, how many times have we gone 1-0 down in a game, and unless we score quite quickly afterwards, we're never going to score, are we? We just don't. It's been a recurring theme this for, you know, pretty much the whole time under Arteta. As much as we all, you know, maybe didn't really want Unai Emery to stay, the one thing you could say about Unai Emery's team is at least we did make late comebacks quite a lot. while he was the coach, didn't he? There was that one in the Europa League against Victoria Grimaresh at the Emirates, Aston Villa, when we had 10 men and we came back and won. And we did it a few times under Emery, but we've just not done it at all under Arteta. I mean, I know obviously Albert wasn't very happy with the performance at the weekend, like none of us were particularly. I mean, what are you making of it? You know, I mean, there's been games. So, for example, you know, we lost 2-1 at Everton. It was 2-1 at half time. We had the whole of the second half, didn't do anything to come back into it. Wolves at home, 2-1 at half time, whole of the second half. We never looked like coming back and getting back into it. You know, the 2 games against Man City, we were 1-0 down early on. What do you think that the reasons for this is? You know, we're not on onslaught in the final 10 minutes of games, are we? We're not putting teams under real pressure like we maybe used to do in years gone by.
Rich, the immediate answer to your question is I haven't got a clue. That's the first honest reason I can give you. Like you said, we don't start games very well. We don't look like we're gonna get back into the game when we go 1-0 down, whether that's within the first 2 minutes, whether it's 20, 30 minutes into the games. The amount of times this season, Europa League, Premier League, I've been bored watching Arsenal.
Yeah,
you know, I'm struggling to stay awake in some of the first halves. I mean, you know what it is? I actually don't really know, mate.
Shane's got a good point actually about the drinks break. We did used to do well after the drinks breaks, didn't we, last season actually? And we seem to maybe miss them. Actually, that's a good point. Now,
yeah, Dorsey makes a good point about the fitness. It's like when Arteta first come in, you could see, man, this guy was working them hard.
Yeah,
when was it first game against Chelsea? After about 60 minutes, the players were gone.
Yeah,
but that game's a long time ago now, boys. Like, are they not fit enough?
Well, what I will say is obviously they've not had a break in between that. Really, the players not. Obviously, the end of last season and the start of this season, there's not been much of a break. So maybe it is a fatigue thing that they've worked their socks off for 12 months, and maybe now it's catching up with some of the players, possibly.
Yeah, maybe Dorsey, but it's like you said. I don't get. Either they're not listening to him, or they're just not good enough, or it's both.
Yeah,
because I don't understand why you start games lethargic, poor, slow. We don't take the initiative. We're relying on the individuality of ESR and Saka to win us games. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
And if Leno has one of them games where he pulls off worldies, but other than those 3, if you really look at it, we're not winning many football matches, mate.
No, we're not. And even when we had that sort of decent run of results just after Christmas, apart from Chelsea, where we played pretty well, the other games, I mean, West Brom maybe, but they were poor. But the rest of the games, we didn't play particularly well. We got good results without playing that well. And eventually that comes back to haunt you. It was the same at the start of the season, wasn't it? We beat West Ham, we beat Sheffield United, really poor performances, and we got away with them. And then obviously we stopped getting away with them for a while, and then we managed to turn it around again. And now I feel we're back in that same situation again, where if you play poorly for long enough, you're not going to get many results, are you? We haven't got good enough players to get away with it. Liverpool did last season. But
Rich, sorry, I think the only game, right, where I think we've played well, you guys might disagree, over a sustained period of time. Forget the West Brom game because they're terrible. But is Southampton away in the league? I think.
Yeah, that was a good performance.
That was a good performance. I think that's been the best performance this season. Other than that, you're scratching your head to see. Like you, Richard, you said it perfectly. Even in the run of games, he was doing well. I said to people, just like look at what you're seeing. Yes, we're getting the wins and the clean sheets, and people going, "Oh yeah, but we're second best defensive record in the league." But if you really analyze Arsenal's performances, that does mask a little bit. I mean, it's a good stat to be like, not in a lot of goals, but we weren't playing well, mate. We was not playing well at all.
Yeah, it was the same. It was almost the same as under Unai Emery. We went 22 games unbeaten, but almost every one of those 22, we looked like we could have lost. And I think sometimes, just because you're not losing games, it's papering over the cracks, and it's largely the same squad of players. And I was saying it the whole time when people were calling for Unai Emery to be sacked. I was saying, okay, look, I can inevitably see how this is going to end under Unai. I just didn't think. I'm not saying he's not a good coach. I just didn't think he was going to work out at Arsenal and in the Premier League with the communication and whatever other issues.
Yeah.
What I was saying, the thing you have to remember is the guy you bring in to replace Unai Emery is going to have the exact same squad of players, and we all get that boost, when a new guy comes in. And I think Arteta got that boost with the same players, carried them through. He got the FA Cup, he got the 8th place finish. I think now we're still seeing largely the same core group of players who, some of these players went back as far as letting Arsene Wenger down in his final days, went on to let Emery down. They're now letting Arteta down. So I'm not at all excusing the manager. I'm just saying, if the same core remains, the same rotten core in the team, the results are going to be the same, really.
Yeah.
Put Guardiola in there in the morning, same group of players. He might get 6 months out of them, and then they'll start showing their true colours all over again.
Yeah. But, what you got to think about is, we have got rid of a lot of the old guard, if you like, that were maybe bad apples, haven't we? We've just got rid of a few of them. Whether that was totally Arteta's choice for some of them and maybe not for others, I'm not sure. But anyway, we've got rid of a lot of players, a lot of those sort of players. But the ones that we've still got, he's constantly picking them every week, often ahead of players that maybe should be playing it ahead of him, but he's the one who's picking them in the team still. So if they are bad influences and not doing a consistently good job for the team, which some of them don't appear to be, why does he keep picking them? I know Xhaka gets a lot of stick. I actually think Xhaka's been playing all right, to be fair. Yeah. But when he was having a bad time, he still got picked. Obviously, Willian was in the team for months when he was playing poorly. And it's the manager picking the team, isn't he? At the end of the day, so why is he, constantly putting these players in the team when we've all seen, like you said there, that eventually they're going to let us down, because they have done for the last 3 or 4 years. And Arteta must know that, because he would have watched us before. So he knows which players have let us down in the past, which players are letting us down now. But yet he insists on continuing with them when we've got young players. It did kind of bring me on a little bit to the Martinelli situation, because that is now starting to really annoy me. And it annoyed me on Sunday more than anything. Martinelli, under Unai Emery, Martinelli was one of the best young players in the world at that time. He scored. Was he the first teenager to score 10 goals in his first season in the European football, the first South American or whatever it was. I can't remember what the record was. And yes, he's had injuries, but even before he got injured last season, I'd say I wasn't really picking him much. Exactly. He dropped him out of the squad, and at that time he came in for when Aubameyang was suspended after he got sent off. He scored a couple of goals, played really well, and then he got kicked out of the team. He did get injured, and then obviously since then he's struggled to get back in. But why? He must be fit if he's on the bench. Why on earth is he not getting more? He took him off at half time against Man United when he didn't do great, but nobody had in that first half. And he took Martinelli off at half time. What's going on with that? What do you think about that, Dorsey? What are your thoughts on the Martinelli situation? Is it just that Arteta doesn't fancy him, or is there something else you think going on?
I would like to think it's a fitness issue, and I'd like to think that he's just trying to bring him back slowly. Obviously he didn't give him any minutes against City at all, but I can only imagine. He seems, looking from the outside in, he looks mentally like the exact sort of player that we need to bring in. Mentally, he works his socks off. He works for the team. He's not selfish. He's got all the right attributes looking in, and I can't even begin to imagine that he's any kind of trouble on a training pitch. No. So that leads me to believe, and I hope I'm right, that it is just a case of that he's just trying to bring him in slowly, and he doesn't maybe want him to pick up knocks after knock after knock, because since he came back from that big injury, he got injured again in the warm-up, didn't he, against I can't remember who it was against now. I think that was against Southampton. Was it? Yeah. And then so he's just picked up a couple of niggly injuries. So I'm hoping it's just the fact that he's just trying to ease him back in, get himself properly fit, and then hopefully you'll start to see him come back in the side. But I do agree that if he's on the bench, then he's fit enough to play 20 minutes, half hour, whatever that need to be. And when you're 1-0 down against City, look, I'd rather lose that game 2 or 3-0, but have a proper go in the last half an hour than kind of just sit back. And we almost just accepted the inevitable that we were going to lose, and almost to a certain degree happy that it was only 1-0, because in the first 20 minutes it could have been 3. So
Yeah.
Maybe it's just an element of to say, look, actually, when you look back at it and you look at the run that City are on, losing 1-0 maybe isn't such a bad result. You don't come away with any negative press. You've lost to the best team in the league by a mile, but you haven't lost 4-5-0. So I don't know, but back to the Martinelli thing, I just hope it's a fitness thing, and hopefully we'll start seeing him getting some minutes soon if he's fighting fit.
But I mean, you say that, and that could be a reason. I don't know. I say he did leave him out of the squad last season before he was injured as well. But you've got Smith Rowe. He had a lot of injuries. As soon as he was fit, he put him straight in the team, and he hasn't rested him much since, has he? The odd game here and there. Saka he plays every single week. If he's worried about a young player's development and burning them out, why is he not treating them the same? Yes, that they've played well, both of them, but Martinelli was fantastic last season, coming on against Man City, to me, that was the ideal game to bring him on. Give him 10, 15 minutes at the end of that game. He would have caused Man City some problems, and you never know. We may have got a goal. We may have got an equaliser. We may not have done, but surely he would have been a better option when you're losing to bring on than Ceballos, he's not noted for his goal scoring abilities, is he? And he doesn't drive forward from midfield like he's not like an Aaron Ramsey who might get you a goal. So I thought that was, to me, there seems to be something else going on. He can't, because he's not fit, or he wouldn't be on the bench. So I just don't understand it. I mean, what are you thinking about that, Albert, with Martinelli? It's frustrating, isn't it? Because we know what a good player he is and what a good player he can be.
Frustrating is the politest word I'm going to use for your podcast, mate. There's other words I could use. As Rich, I said it, and Anthony, you would have seen it. I've said it when we played Villa, right, and we're 1-0 down. Lacazette's not got a tune out of the Villa defense all day. Aubameyang's come on and has been non-existent. You've got 5-10 minutes to go. You bring on Willian. What does that tell you? If it's a fitness, like Dawes, said, right? I understand the fitness thing, but if he's on the bench, you're trying to tell me Martinelli can't give you 5 minutes.
Yeah,
that's on Arteta, man, 100%. Yeah. So for that purely, I don't understand. As we sort of look at when I did the fan cam view the other day, Rich, right? And I was talking about Pepe and Martinelli, and I said to you, is he saving them for the Europa League? And I was saying that in a rhetorical way because I know he's not. Because he's not going to pick him.
No.
So what is he doing? I don't understand what this guy has done or said for him to not get minutes. I'm not talking about putting him on for 70, 80 minutes. Like Dorsey said, what, he can't do 20 minutes, 30 minutes when we need the goal, and he's a striker. It's crackers, mate. I don't understand it.
You wouldn't mind if the other players we've got look dangerous, but Aubameyang's has had a poor season. Lacazette seems to fire in 2 or 3 game bursts, and he'll get a few goals in a few games, and he'll go quiet again. Pepe's been very inconsistent. Saka really is the only kind of attacking threat that's been consistently. Well, he's been unreal all season in every game, but everyone else has been very inconsistent. So you wouldn't mind if they all look dangerous and look like they were going to get you a goal, then you can understand Martinelli not coming on. But it is a funny one.
I mean, just going back to what you said a little bit earlier, actually, Dorsey, about, as though maybe everybody was, well, not everybody, but Arteta seemed to be reasonably satisfied. We only lost 1-0 to City. And you could say they're top of the league. They'd won 17 games in a row, 16 in a row, whatever it was beforehand, which is fair enough. But I'm not bothered if we win or lose games necessarily. What I want to see is the team trying everything they can to get a result. If we lost to City because they're a better team than us, you can say fair enough. Nobody really minds. But when you just roll over and say fair enough, let's just take a 1-0 defeat and that's fine because we didn't get hammered. To me, that's we're Arsenal. We're not Sheffield United, or we're not a West Bromwich Albion who might well think a 1-0 defeat against Man City is a good result. A 1-0 defeat against anyone for Arsenal is a bad result, and it's an even worse result if we've just sat back and allowed that to happen without giving everything to try to get something from it. I totally agree with you guys. I said it on my video. I'd rather have lost that game 2 or 3-0 in the last 10 minutes, throwing everything forward. Now, for me, the reason why our defensive record this season has been good is because we don't take any risks at any point during any game. We just quite happy to get everybody behind the ball. Yes, we sometimes look dangerous on the counter-attack, but even when we counter-attack, we still got our defensive shape because we're not prepared to push people forward enough. When we're chasing a game, you have to do that. It's all right if you're winning a game 1-0, the shape of our team's great, you know, and that's a good shape to have. But when you're losing, which is unfortunately happening too many times, we're not taking the risk. That's why we're not conceding goals. Under Arsene Wenger, under Unai Emery, we maybe left ourselves open because we would throw everybody forward to try to get goals, and it did often cost us. But this season, we're not doing that at all, and that's the only reason why we haven't improved. The players aren't any better defensively. All we're doing is they're being told not to take chances, not to take risks, don't overcommit in attack.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's the reason. That's the only reason why our defensive record's better. And I don't really, to me, that's nothing to be proud of. You know, it's nothing to be proud of for me. I'd much rather be losing these games 2 or 3-0, trying to get an equaliser, than just losing 1-0, conceding after 10 minutes and just losing 1-0 and not even having a shot on target in the final 10 minutes. It's happened too many times. And to me, you know, I don't care about our defensive record particularly. When we're not scoring goals, it's irrelevant, really, isn't it? You know, we're not throwing enough people forward, and it's, you know, and Martinelli's the one player for me. When he, that game against Manchester City in the Carabao Cup before Christmas, it was his first game back. He ran everywhere that day. He put Man City under pressure. He got us back into that game and we conceded a goal. We got it back to 1-1. He set up the goal with a cross, and he was brilliant. Yes, he got injured and had to go off in the end, but that's what he can bring. So why on earth is he sat on the bench in the final 10 minutes of that game on Sunday? And it's definitely down to Arteta, and that's it. No other reason.
But do you think that's one of the reasons why he doesn't play him, is because he runs everywhere. He leaves holes everywhere. And I get what you're saying in terms of the fact that he's trying to win the ball back. He's trying to make something happen. And that's what we all want to see. We all want to see players chasing the ball down, trying to win it back and making something happen. But from Arteta's perspective, maybe he doesn't like that. Maybe he's got that shape in his head. Maybe this is what he wants the players to do. This is the shape they need to be in at all times. And maybe that's why he's not. Maybe that's why he's not getting so many minutes.
But yeah, I find it slightly sort of strange, if that's the word, that when Arteta was coach at Manchester City, and you look now, Man City are better defensively since Arteta's gone, and yet he's come to us and he's improved our defensive record. And it just there's a little kind of thing that makes me think, I wonder what's happened there. Then obviously whoever's coming and now is working on the defence at Man City has done a better job than was happening previously, because they just don't concede goals anymore. And, you know, while our defensive record has improved, I agree. Maybe he doesn't want Martinelli running around everywhere, but somebody's got to. At some point in the game, you've got to take risks, or you're not going to win games. And that's exactly what's been happening, really, isn't it? It's just so frustrating to watch. And maybe, you know, we was maybe a little bit more used to the Arsene Wenger style, maybe, where we'd attack a lot. You know, it was exciting football quite often, and we let in goals, but sometimes we got away with it because of how great our attacking play was. And maybe it's difficult to watch this at the minute, I don't know. But I agree with Albert. Not many games have excited me for the last year under Arteta. Not many at all. There's been maybe a handful of games, and that's it. The rest of them have been dour to watch, really, and it's painful often, isn't it, to watch our games? It really is. And unfortunately, to me, that comes down to the manager. I mean, a point I made in my video, actually, which I wanted to get your opinion on, really. I mean, if we start maybe with you, Anthony, just obviously with the whole Odegaard coming in and obviously Ozil going out the door, I noticed on Sunday, and I don't know what you guys think, that you could almost see why Ozil didn't work under Arteta's team, because Odegaard didn't work on Sunday. And Odegaard's a very good player, technically brilliant. He can spot a pass, he can open defences up, but he didn't get the ball in the right areas for that to happen. And that's exactly the same I felt that was happening with Ozil when he was playing before. So, you know, while he wants to get a number 10, if you like, that kind of player, it's not going to work in the system, is it? I mean, what are you kind of making about that, Andy? Because I thought Odegaard didn't get in that game on Sunday at all, did he?
Yeah, he was virtually non-existent already. In fairness to him, I'd imagine he was a little bit jaded going into that game, because he hasn't had a lot of football up until recently. He's actually played quite a lot of football since he's arrived at us in a short space of time. So I can kind of forgive him for maybe being a little bit leggy. But as you were saying, the system Arteta plays at the moment doesn't really suit that creative kind of player, because Arteta doesn't seem to be about creativity. He's very much about structure. And I think that's kind of going back to what we were saying about Martinelli. maybe that kind of, free-flowing, attacking style of player, almost a bit of like an Alexis Sanchez type, where you can just release him. He doesn't really have a position. You let him do his own thing. I don't think that fits into Arteta's idea. And I think that's why the likes of Pepe doesn't get in. We know he has the creativity and all, but obviously for him to express himself on the pitch, he's not going to fit into the structure that Arteta wants. He wants his guy to stick in the position. He wants him to track back. He wants him to be, if he's playing right-hand side, he wants him to be there at all times. And I think that's what's going to, be the downfall for a lot of those creative sort of players. I don't think they can really express themselves properly. As well as that, I think with the midfield pairing we had, it was always going to be difficult for our forward players to get any of the ball. I think, look, to be honest, it's a catch-22 because as bad as this probably sounds, I think if any of us before kickoff were offered a 1-0 defeat against City, we probably would have taken it. Now, given the context of how the game actually went, I think that's why we're disappointed, because we saw City weren't 100% going for it. You know what I mean? They were there for the taking if we had set up to actually go at them, which we weren't. I think we were set up to contain, and I think that's exactly what we did. I honestly think that as much as Arteta would love to get one over Guardiola, I honestly think he set up that team not to get embarrassed. I think he set up the team just to try contain City. I don't really believe he ever thought he could get the 3 points in that game. And I think even though we could see, De Bruyne was not on it, we probably on another day, had we been a bit more ballsy and gone for it, we probably could have even got a point out of that. But I really do think Arteta just said to himself, look, I'm not taking any chances here. I'm not going into this Benfica game after leaking, 3 or 4 goals. If we get out of this losing 1-0, and it's a complete wrong attitude to have, but I just feel he said, look, we get out of this 1-0, not the worst result in the world, and we move on, and we're not too emotionally damaged now going forward, because really I don't think anyone was expecting anything. Again, the context of how the game played out, it was there for the taking. I just think going into the game, the attitude and the setup was completely wrong.
But I mean, no, I kind of agree with that to a certain point. But the only kind of issue I've got with that is that it's not just this game that we've set up like that and we've played like that. There's been lots of games this season. And if the Man City was a one-off, you could think, that would make perfect sense completely. Don't go into Benfica having got hammered. That would not be good for confidence. But this has happened in games before when we maybe haven't had a midweek game, or we've had a midweek game in the Europa League against a pub team from your neck of the woods, or you know what I mean. But it doesn't make sense because it's happened too many times before. As a one-off, I would agree totally. That would make sense, wouldn't it?
It seems to be a lot of the time when we play at the Emirates, we set up this way.
Yeah, we do. Yeah,
most home games. I don't know why. I don't understand why, because that's where you make your home your fortress. That's where you go at teams, and when teams come to your home ground, they should know they're in for a game. Whatever about, okay, look, if you're going to Anfield when the stadium is full and you're up against the cop and that, it's always going to be a tough game. It's not going to go to plan. If you bring someone to the Emirates, it should be completely different. Like, teams should be showing up at the Emirates, afraid of what Arsenal are going to do. But for some reason, I don't know why it is, but he always sets up so negatively. And I think it just comes down to maybe the style of coach. He's over-analysing, and there's too much emphasis on fine margins. And I just really believe he just needs to take more chances, And I'm really surprised, because Guardiola is one of the perfect mentors to learn about, creative play and taking chances. If you look at Guardiola's system the other day, the players basically didn't have positions. They were playing all over the pitch. The right back Cancelo was playing as almost a centre midfielder, and De Bruyne was playing as a striker, and then he was back in midfield. And I don't know where he's adopted this setup and these tactics from. I really can't get my head around it.
It can only be because he hasn't got the right players to play the system he wants to play. It can only be that, because the way City's set up and the way they play hasn't really changed since Arteta left. So he was obviously an integral part of that, and I guess that's what he wants to get to. But I guess it depends on whether he gets the time to bring those players in to implement that. Yeah. Hopefully, that's what he wants to do in the long run. But yeah, it just feels like he's very cautious at the moment.
Yeah,
doesn't want to lose any game 3, 4, 5-0, and in doing that, he's not taking risks. And again, I guess that's like we've all said tonight so far. That's what's frustrating. It's that we're not bothered about losing games. We understand that we've got an average squad. We're in a transition. We're going to lose games. We all understand that. But let's have a go. Let's show a bit of fight and try and get something out of some of these games. But,
I think that's all we want, isn't it? We just want to see the team giving everything to try to get a result. And yeah, I agree. The squad we've got issues in certain areas of the squad, especially in midfield, where we don't maybe have enough quality that we need to be able to compete with teams like Manchester City. But you just want to see them giving everything to try it, because, you know, there's been this season in particular shown us that anybody has been able to beat pretty much anybody this season on the day. You know, you've had teams like, you know, Aston Villa had a great season. You can't tell me they've got a better squad than we have. You know, they've got some good players, but we've got some good players as well. But they've gone out and beaten big teams this season. You know, look at where West Ham are. You know, you're not telling me West Ham have got a better squad in depth-wise than what we have. Yes, they've got some good players as well, but you know, you just got to look at that, and you see teams like them. I watch them. I don't think there's more than 3 or 4 teams in the Premier League that play worse football than we do. You know, maybe Sheffield United have been really struggling. Burnley don't hardly score any goals. I mean, obviously Spurs under Mourinho aren't pretty to watch, but there's not many teams play. I mean, you look at even Brighton struggling down the bottom of the league. They play better football than us. They try to win every single game. They just don't have the quality to finish their chances off. You know, I would love to see us play like that, because with the players that we've got, we would win a lot of games, because we've got that quality in the final third that Brighton don't, to take those chances. And I just don't understand why we're not playing with that freedom, because that's what it comes down to. You know, I mean, I say we've got Odegaard now, who to me I think is a very good player. I mean, what are your thoughts on him, Albert, on Odegaard? I know he's had a decent game against Benfica last week, I thought, and then obviously he didn't really get into it, did he, on Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of going to hold tight with Odegaard. I mean, I hear that, you know, you can see he's got ability and quality, and but I'm not too sold on the YouTube clips. We made that mistake with quite a few players before, but no, I mean, I can see why people probably got a little bit carried away, because he's obviously the type of player that we don't have. He's very good at picking up the pockets of space. Unfortunately, when you're playing against a team in City, where you know you're not going to have a lot of possession of the ball, and when the thing is, like I said to you before, Rich, when you play that system, and I'm going to bring up the strikers, you're probably going to touch on it later, so I'm not going to say too much, but if you're playing against the City side, Lacazette has to start, man. Like, to me, that's a no-brainer. We know Aubameyang's his hold-up play is not very good. We've known that since he was at Dortmund.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so to me, it was a no-brainer to play Lacazette. Someone mentioned it in the chat, actually. I don't know who's done it, but I tell you, man, Arteta, not even Arteta really, but they're lucky at the fans allowed in the stadium, mate. They're very, very lucky.
I was going to ask, do you think we'd still be setting up the same if there was fans in the ground? Do you think we'd still be setting up the same way and be interesting?
Dorsey, I think it depends on how stubborn Arteta is, and he's shown traits of that this season. So, with the pressure of the fans there, who knows? But it wouldn't be a pleasant sight, man. So he's lucky there's no fans in the stadium. But yeah, you know what it is, Rich. I just think, Odegaard. Sorry, he's you can see there's a talent there, and you know the thing is as well, right? When we played the first leg against Benfica, now we're on Twitter, we see it, Dorsey, Anthony, Rich, you see it over the months. Arsenal there's no service for the strikers. They're not getting the ball, not creating chances. Aubameyang should have had back-to-back hat-tricks. Let's have it right.
Yeah.
We actually had a player in the team that was playing them passes that, you know, through the eye of a needle, and we fluffed our chances. So there's no excuse there. And like I said, back to the sort of the City game, you know, like I said, when you're playing that system, when you do get possession of the ball, it's what you do with it, isn't it? But we didn't do anything. Yes, you can talk about the quality of City, and let's be honest, City didn't have to get out of second gear. If they'd have took the chances in the first half, it could have been a cricket score. It could have got very ugly. So yeah, that's what I'd say, mate. Odegaard, I would, you know what? Let's see it run, Rich, through the course of the season. See how he sort of matures into the team, and we take it from there, mate. Take it from there.
I mean, I think you kind of summed it up well what you just said there about the Benfica game. I mean, Odegaard put a couple of lovely balls through to Aubameyang, who should have scored and he didn't. And then, of course, then suddenly people look at stats. Well, Odegaard hasn't got assists. Ozil didn't get assists, but that's because when you've got a player like that in a team who's got that little bit of extra quality, you need to have the people making, first of all, the right runs for him to pick out. And secondly, when they get there, they've got to be able to finish them chances. And, you know, because it's like you said, you know, we're not playing the sort of football where we're going to get loads and loads and loads of chances every game, are we? So when we do get chances, we have to be more clinical in front of goal. We have to be, and that's another thing that's let us down. I agree. It's not that we're not always creating chances. Yes, in some games we haven't. Man City we didn't, particularly in other games, but there are games where we have created chances and we haven't taken them. And these are the games where, you know, most games this season that we've lost, they've been close games, haven't they? We've lost by 1 goal generally, and in those games, most of the time we have had some chances that we should have taken. You know, we got away with it in some games, but you know.
Yeah, sorry, Rich. Sorry. I think I don't know if it's still the case now, but I think at one point Arsenal were like the lowest scorers in the Premier League. It's in the top 12. That's probably still the case.
Yeah, I think it might well be.
And that speaks volumes, mate. What was that stat that came up a few weeks ago that after was it 11 or 12 home games we're down like double on goals at home from 4 years ago. Double.
Yeah. What I will say though is when I look at that squad, I don't see 5 or 6 players that have got goals in them.
No,
I don't see it. And I guess the one thing I certainly didn't foresee was Aubameyang not firing, because when was the last time he had a season where he wasn't firing? You know, you could go back 4, 5, 6, 7 years, and consistently he's been unreal. And for one second, I don't think we. And listen, it's not the job of one player to score goals. We need a team to do that. Back when we had Lundberg, Pires, Bergkamp, you know, he had all those players that would kind of consistently chip in with 15, 20 goals a season. But if Aubameyang had last season or the season before this season, some of the results would have been different, because we would have definitely scored more goals. So I think it's a culmination of a few different factors, and one, we certainly didn't see Aubameyang being as non-prolific as he is this season, which really hasn't helped us, because I don't see anyone else in that squad that's going to get you 15 goals a season. No one. Maybe Lacazette at a push, but he doesn't play consistently enough, and he scores in phases, didn't he? Yeah, he has 2 or 3 games where he gets 3 or 4 goals and then he'll go quiet again. And we've got too many players that do that and are not consistent enough over the course of a season to get 20, 25 goals.
I mean, do you not think that somewhere along the line, again, you know, and I don't want to keep going back to Unai Emery, but Unai Emery got Aubameyang scoring lots and lots of goals. He had Martinelli scoring goals. Under Arteta, and whether it's to do with the system that we're playing, Martinelli's not even getting a game, and Aubameyang's output has gone backwards quite steadily. And even last season, towards the end of last season, he wasn't as prolific under Arteta as he had been previously. I mean, he scored some important goals in the end. He got 2 in the semi-final, 2 in the final, for example, but he wasn't scoring the same sort of numbers under Arteta as he had done in the previous two years under, first of all, Arsene Wenger and then Unai Emery. He's not getting anywhere near those similar numbers. And this season, again, I mean, he's way off what we would have expected. But is that down to Aubameyang only, or is it down to maybe the like we said before, we're not taking enough risk, we're not getting enough players breaking the lines, and subsequently maybe Aubameyang we're not getting the best out of Aubameyang, and maybe he's confidence.
Can I ask you something, Rich? And the other guys will definitely want to say something. You see, with Aubameyang, right? He's been. Listen, I understand the off the field issues. I listen. Let me get that in first before people start jumping down my neck. But he's been terrible this season.
Yeah.
I mean, listen. I've seen people use stronger words on social media, but he's been awful. And the thing is, as well, Rich, right? With Aubameyang, I think it's gone out of my head. I was going to add it in my head. What I was going to say to you. God, oh mate, what was I going to say?
I've got a pen in my hand, so I can write things down when I think of them.
I was going to say, No, gone, Rich, gone. It's gone out my head, mate. It's completely gone. It's gone.
I mean, I just feel that there is something that, I mean, Aubameyang this season hasn't looked happy, and yes, he's had those issues off the field, which we now know about, which we maybe didn't earlier in the season and stuff like that. But I think it is more than that as well. Just the way his head's down, the way he's not playing in the same way he was previously, and that's affecting his goal scoring. And is it to do with he's not happy with the system that we're playing? You know, he's been playing out on the left, now he's playing through the centre. I mean, he can't have any complaints from that Benfica game. As you said, he had 3 or 4 decent chances. He should have scored, and he didn't. In some games, he maybe hasn't got the opportunities. But I don't know, something's not right with him. You know, I mean, what shocked me on Sunday, and I mean, someone's put it in the chat there. It was Russ. Stones had him in his pocket. He did, but how weak was he physically? He was getting pushed off the ball every single time. I mean, that was weak, and I don't know. To me, that was
Rich.
Something's not right with him.
Yeah, I know I was going to say now. Sorry, mate. Yeah,
It's back.
I know I was going to say because Ryan just put something in the chat. What I have an issue with, right, and I've had an issue with quite a few Arsenal players this season. When we wasn't playing well, come out in the media and front up.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. He came out against Southampton at home after he scored. Where was he on Sunday?
Yeah.
No, that, to me, that I'm sorry, I'm not. That's not acceptable for me.
As captain, he should be out there. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I think
had to bring it up.
That armband. Listen, I can't speak highly enough of what Aubameyang's done over the last 3 years. I absolutely adore the guy. His personality, everything around the club. You can see how much he's such a big part of that squad. But that armband it doesn't sit right with me being with him. I think it's too heavy for him. I don't think he needs it. I think it's added something that seems to have taken quite a big part away from his game. And you've got, listen, I mean, you said it earlier, Richard. I mean, I understand some of the issues that people have with Xhaka. Don't get me wrong, because he's put us in a hole in more than one occasion, as has David Luiz, and you can count a few others. But I think he's been brilliant this season for me, Xhaka. In 80% of the games, I think he's been very, very good. And I know I don't want to say it, but he's more of a leader than most of those players. That's the one thing you can't take away from Xhaka is he would front up. He never runs away from anything. From what I can see, you know, all the stuff that he's been through at the club, all this stuff of him throwing the shirt on any other player would have walked out that club the second they could, but he didn't. He stuck around. He tried to win the fans back. Yeah, he's made a couple of mistakes on the road and had a couple of red cards and stuff, but he doesn't ever run away from anything at all. And for me, that's what a leader is. You front up, you come out, you face whoever it is you need to face, and you say, we're not good enough.
Yeah, you can't just come out when you score goals, mate. No, I'm not.
No, I agree. Completely agree. And then you look at someone like Tierney as well. Everyone else is calling that maybe Tierney is the captain. And for me, that armband has lost its importance. Probably going back 10 years, it's been passed around here, there, and everywhere. And you've not had anyone that's kept hold of that armband for 2 or 3 years before it gets passed to someone else. So I think if you're going to give it to someone like Tierney. He's young enough; he can grow into it. So I think Aubameyang. The biggest thing for me is he doesn't need that pressure of being captain as well. That's just my opinion.
No, I agree. And it does seem, doesn't it, that since he's become captain, which was, I think he was made captain just before Arteta came in, wasn't he? After the Xhaka incident and all that kind of stuff. And I suppose since then, if you look at it, maybe his form has suffered since that point. So maybe that, but I think it takes a real strong leadership from Arteta to take the captaincy off Aubameyang and give it. I mean, you know, if you remember, George Graham back in the day gave Tony Adams a captaincy halfway through a season when he was only a young player. You know, maybe it needs similar type of management now, and to take it off Aubameyang and say, look, listen, you know, it's not working. You know, you want to just concentrate on your own game and getting your form back, and maybe giving it to someone like Tierney. I mean, personally, I think the two natural leaders in that team are Xhaka, as you said, and I think David Luiz as well. But David Luiz has come out in the press when he's made mistakes and he's fronted it out. And you can see, I mean, even Bukayo Saka's mentioned David Luiz lots of times about what a great influence he's been on him and stuff like that. So I think they're the two natural ones for me short term, but obviously long term, we've got to look at somebody younger. I mean, Bukayo Saka looks like he's got the potential to be captain at some stage. You know, with his personality, it looks like a lot of players look up to him now a little bit, and he's only 19. It just shows the lack of leadership there is elsewhere in the team, I suppose. But maybe that's an issue. I mean, Anthony, who would you maybe put as captain if we're going to take it off Aubameyang, which I think maybe should happen? Who would you give it to? I mean, Bellerin's actually the vice captain, believe it or not.
Oh my God!
Yeah, it wouldn't be going to Bellerin if it was my choice anyway. But you know what? I think Arteta had the perfect excuse to take the armband from Aubameyang. You know, with the personal issues he was having.
Yeah.
That was. I think this is where we see the inexperience and the naivety of Arteta as the manager. I think a more experienced coach, like say Jurgen Klopp, for example, who's almost like, you know, great coach, great manager, but almost like a father figure to a lot of these guys. I think he would have recognized that maybe with the personal issues going on, you know, the weight of expectation that the armband comes with, he's not on form. You know, I think somebody with that kind of experience would have been able to put the arm around Aubameyang and said, look, you don't need this pressure right now. I'm going to take a bit of limelight off you. And it's nothing to do with, you know, you as a person, whatever. Like, you're almost doing Aubameyang a favour at this stage by taking it off of him. You know, I don't think. Okay, look, I don't know. Maybe what his ego is like off the pitch. Maybe it might hurt his pride a little bit. But I think in the long run, the type of character he is, I think it'll only benefit to be completely. Yeah. I think he'd get over in a couple of games. He'd get over, start scoring goals again. It'd soon be forgotten about. I don't think he needs the weight of the arm, the armband. But in terms of who would be a captain, yeah, look, I think everybody would agree Kieran Tierney would be a great shout. Only problem is with his injury record at the moment, you need him on the pitch the whole time. The only player you can guarantee is on that pitch every single week for 90 minutes is Granit Xhaka. He's the only player you know is going to be fit to play week in, week out. And I do think he is a very good leader, a very good organizer. I would like Granit Xhaka as a captain as long as he has a solid partner in midfield, because I see Granit Xhaka as in a whole new light when he's playing alongside Thomas Partey. Yeah, I see him playing with El Neni and Ceballos, and I'm seeing the old Granit Xhaka. I think Granit Xhaka with the captain's armband is similar to Granit Xhaka playing with El Neni and Ceballos, where I think he's focused too much on trying to organise them and worry about what they're going to do, and it takes away from his own performance. Yeah. I think if he has a captain's armband, but he has Thomas Partey beside him, he's not worried about what Thomas Partey's doing because he knows this guy is capable. I do not need to say a word to this guy because he knows what he's doing. So I can focus on my job a bit better. And I think that's the main problem, even with David Luiz. I think this is why, again, he's a decent leader. You know, he doesn't go running. He puts his hands up when he makes mistakes. And this is why I like David Luiz when he plays alongside, say, Gabriel, for example, because he's communicating and organising. But I think when David Luiz is concentrating on doing someone else's job, he's forgetting about his own job. So I think that's the problem. So, yeah, for me, if it can't be Kieran Tierney, I go with Granit Xhaka again. I give him another shot as long as we have the right team beside him. But ideally, I want Kieran Tierney.
What a turnaround that would be.
I mean, you agree with that about Granit Xhaka?
I love you guys, and I love you, bro. Listen, I will give credit where credit's due. Rich, you know my content. Like, I don't just, I'm not going to slam someone. Just listen. I'm not his biggest fan, and I can give credit for him being solid in midfield, but I don't want that guy anywhere near the captaincy. No chance. I would rather.
Who else would you have?
Dorsey, I'll give it to you, mate, but not Granit Xhaka. No, I can't have that.
I'll sorry. Crumble, mate. I'll crumble. Don't give it to me.
No, absolutely not.
You know what, though? You know what, Albert? The main issue I would have with Granit Xhaka becoming the captain means that he becomes indispensable to the team, which he seems to be at the moment. I don't want going forward. I don't want Granit Xhaka being indispensable to our starting 11. I don't mind Granit Xhaka being part of our squad. I do think he's a decent option. I don't want him to be the option week in, week out. I want Thomas Partey and somebody else and Granit Xhaka as a backup. So to make him the captain, obviously you're going to have him in the lineup every week. So I'd be more than happy to not have him as captain if it means he just becomes a backup option. He's better than El Neni. He's better than Ceballos.
And that's not saying a lot.
That's not saying a lot, but I'd rather see the pair of those guys walk and keep Granit Xhaka as your backup to come in to rotate. You know, if Partey gets injured or suspended, needs a bit of a breather, put Xhaka in with Bissouma or whoever we decide to go for, you know.
What I will say is I don't think they can't give it to Xhaka, because can you just imagine, even if you wanted to, you imagine middle of the season, you've taken the captain's armband off arguably your best player, and you've given it to a player that's thrown his shirt on the floor, got sent off. You know, you can't do it. So I know it's not going to happen. But just when I look at the leaders in that team, and only as a leader, not any other attributes, he's one of the very few that stands out. You know, when I just take away everything else from his game, I just don't see. And maybe that is one of the biggest issues that we have, is that we just do not have that option. We don't have someone that is a Mr. Reliable, that is going to be there for 35 games of the season, not make stupid mistakes. We don't have that. We don't have that kind of player that's got that.
So, I just saw a comment in the chat from Ryan.
But I do agree with what Anthony said. I do think that Xhaka looks a better player when he's playing alongside Partey than he does anybody else.
I mean, what Melvin said there, obviously what Anthony touched on as well, the only problem with Xhaka being captain, it means he plays. Well, he's playing anyway. He's playing every game anyway. I mean, how often does he get left out and rested, rotated? Very, very rarely. So he's playing anyway, isn't he? So it's not really makes any difference if he's captain or not, because he's played virtually every game. You know, and Russ said there, Granit Xhaka is Mr. Reliable, and I suppose he is. I know he's not everybody's favourite player, but he has been this season. No, I think this season he has been pretty reliable this season. I think, you know,
he is in the sense that he doesn't get injured, but obviously the times he does miss is because he's done something stupid. You know, they're the only times he is not on the pitch. But from an injury perspective, we've got a lot of players that pick up niggly injuries quite often, and Kieran Tierney, Smith Rowe, Martinelli seems to be the same at the moment. There's a lot of players that cannot keep themselves fit. So I think you have to go with someone that's going to be there for 35 games a season if you are going to take it off of Aubameyang, and there's not many of them around.
And there isn't. I mean,
in fairness to Granit Xhaka, okay, I know he has a lot of errors in his game, but I think the reason why his errors stand out so much is because he's one of the few risk takers we actually have in midfield. He's willing to play a ball across the park, whereas El Neni, you've got the sideways passes. Danny Ceballos, they're very conservative and safe, so they're not going to stand out as making these mistakes. So look, like as I said, I'm not defending him when he makes his they're pretty bad, but he is a trier. He is a trier. So look, maybe if you have more capable, switched on players around him, his errors wouldn't be as crucial. You know, if you have a defensive partnership that's a bit more capable, if you have a midfield partner beside him, might be able to, kind of pick up the pieces when he does have one of his moments. Maybe his errors will go a little bit more unnoticed.
I think if you could get 10, 15 games in a row, Xhaka and Thomas Partey together, then maybe you could make a more of a fair assessment on it. Because I agree with you, Anthony. I do see something good between that. I mean, I'm only basing it on the options that we've got. I'm not saying there aren't better players out there that we can go and get, because there are. But looking at the options that we've got, them two seem to, in the short time that they've played together, they do seem to have built up a bit of an understanding. So we need to get Partey back fit. We need to get him available to be able to play, well, hopefully the remainder of the season, and maybe then we can see what our options are. But and Neni and Ceballos are not an option for me, and I don't think we should take any option on Ceballos come the end of the season.
No.
I think we're all agreed on that. I mean, he's not. He's not. If we're gonna spend 22 million on him, which is what the price is quoted at, to me, we can get somebody better for not that much more money. We know what Ceballos brings. He hasn't improved us at all, has he, in the time he's been here? So I can't see what the point of spending 22 million pound on him is when we know what we're going to get. At least get someone in who may well improve us, someone who offers something else that we need. I think we've seen what Ceballos can offer us, and it's not, for me, it's not good enough for what we need to progress. He's not the only one, but we don't have to spend money on him, do we? We can give him back. And I think
the problem is he looks good on the ball, and that's what seems to confuse a lot of people into that he's a good player, because the way and some of you guys might disagree with me, but Alex Hleb was the same. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that Hleb was a bad player, but I always noticed at the end of the season when you looked at his stats in terms of assists and goals, they were never that great. But the way he was on the ball, he excited players. Or us as fans, he excited us. He got us off the edge of it because you never knew what he was going to do. But he always reminds me a bit of him because he looks good on the ball. He does lots of twists and turns and keeps the ball well. He wins it back. But when you look at the actual end product, it's just not there at all. And that's what frustrates me with him.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Yeah, I thought that comparison with Hleb was actually a pretty good comparison. If you're looking at any previous player that we've had, he's probably the nearest one, isn't he? They are quite similar in a lot of ways, actually. Even physically as well, quite sort of slightly built and, not exactly a powerful midfield player, either of them are. For me, actually, if he can keep himself fit, Thomas Partey could be a potential captain, couldn't he, in a type Patrick Vieira type role, because he seems to have the capabilities on the pitch and what he can do. I'm not sure about his leadership qualities necessarily yet because he's not played enough games, but I can see potentially in the future him maybe being an option for captain possibly next season if he can keep himself fit. I guess that's what it's about, I suppose, more than anything, isn't it? Like you said, we need a player who's going to play. I mean, someone put in the chat, I can't find it, that maybe Leno as an option for captain, because he's going to play every game in the Premier League, certainly. He's going to get rested for the odd cup game, but at least he plays every game. And, I suppose he's consistent in his performances generally. I know he had a poor start to the season, but overall he's pretty steady and consistent, isn't he? He's one of our more reliable players, if you like. So I suppose I don't like goalkeepers being captain, though. For me, that's the only issue that I've got.
Gabriel, like strikers being captain. I would rather a goalkeeper than a striker. At least from a goalkeeping perspective, you can see the pitch, you can see what's going on.
Maybe.
I didn't like Henry as captain either, to be honest.
No,
I thought he was a good one.
Well, no, he was a great player, and he was a leader as well because everybody respected him, didn't they? Just being on the pitch. I mean, I don't know. I don't think we've had a proper captain, if you like, since Vieira. We've never really replaced him either on the pitch in terms of what he could do, and also off the pitch and his leadership and what he brought. And I suppose it's difficult because he's one of the greatest ever. So it's who would be able to replace him, I suppose. And Thomas Partey for me now is probably the nearest that we're going to get, I suppose, at this moment in time. And if he can stay fit, then maybe he'll be the answer. I mean, I want to kind of go back really to what we sort of the start of the show really about the Europa League and how important it is now for us. I mean, for me, I think from a financial point of view, certainly we need to be in Europe next season, one way or the other. I think if we're out of Europe at the end of this season, what budget are we going to have for transfers? We've had no fans in the stadium for a season and a half. The finances are poor at the club. We know that. Kroenke's not going to dip his hand in his pocket and fund 6 or 7 transfers if we're not in Europe at all. Certainly not. So I think it's absolutely vital that we're in Europe. Now, for me, I still think the top 6 is possible in terms of the point difference, and nobody's really consistent enough in that area of the league. But the Europa League is a way into the Champions League, isn't it? Which financially would be massive. I mean, is this Europa League? One, is it to make or break for the club, possibly for the future? In particular, is it make or break for Arteta this season? If we're not in Europe next season because we get knocked out of the Europa League, we don't finish in the top 6. Is that the end for Arteta? What do you think about that, Albert? What are your kind of thoughts on how important this Europa League is now to Arteta's future as much as anything else?
Rich, first thing I'm going to say is obviously when Arteta spoke about, I didn't watch the whole conference. We're talking about this is a cup final. Now, to me, I'm thinking, but what do you mean? Because was you realistically thinking that we could get get European football in the league? Because I didn't think that at the start of the season, let alone in recent weeks. So that was confusing to me when he said that. This is now a cup final. Secondly, this tie should have been dead and buried last week.
Yeah.
So there's a potential for it to butt us back on the arse. The only positive slightly is we scored the goal because, as I said before, when you go into an European tie, knockout stages, you go in the first leg, 0-0 is the worst result you can have.
Yeah.
Worst result you can have. Ask Liverpool last season against Atletico. Yeah. So with the Arteta thing, Rich, I think I said it to you on the fan cam. I'm not sure. I might, but I've said it to someone on someone's channel. But if we're in a position where if we come out of Europe, whether that be tomorrow on Thursday or the next, if we get through in the next round, whatever, if we don't win the Europa League, for example, and we finish outside the top 6, Arsenal have got a serious decision to make. And it's a decision of their own making, giving him the job in the first place with a guy who's inexperienced. Because the thing is, you're allowed to change your mind. If I don't know, we're not privy to what was said to Arteta in terms of, is your priority you've got 2 years, get us back into the Champions League. Start of the season, you get top 4 or top 6. We don't know what the conversations were, but
no.
I think they've got a serious decision to make, Rich, because if this goes pear-shaped, mate, and we go out of the Europa League, I don't think we'll win it anyway. Listen, I'd love to see us win an European trophy. It's been since 94, mate. I'm old enough to remember that. But it's they've got a big decision to make, mate. And because if they're going to seriously tell us as Arsenal fans, you know what? We didn't win the Europa League. We finished outside the top 6 in the league. But you know what? We're still going to give him the summer and back him. That makes no logical sense to me.
No.
This will be our worst season since 94-95.
And what happened in that season? Did we not sack a manager?
You know what? I think I'd expect to see a better Benfica. So, for the players they've got, Richard, like you can talk about the quality of the Portuguese league to the cows come home, but they've got better players to play better than, because I thought Benfica were terrible in the first leg. I thought we were awful. But we both terrible. But I'd expect to. I think Arsenal sneak it and get through, mate. But in terms of winning the actual competition, for the teams that are left in it, are you confident Arsenal can go over 2 legs and knock out a better team than us this season? Yes, it's a cup competition. Anything's possible. Like Jimmy Greaves said, football's a funny old game, innit? But I'm not too sure we'll win the Europa League, mate. I think the league form is a reflection of where you are, as they say, and I think unfortunately that's going to go into the cup games as well, mate. We're not in any domestic competition, so we've only got the Europa League to go for. But like I said, do you trust these group of players to get you a European trophy since the first time since 94? I'm not too sure, mate. Not too sure.
Mark puts a point there. Apparently, it's a Benfica season to go. Reno said it's their worst team for 10 years, which, looking at where they are in the league and the season they're having, that was probably the case. So if we do lose to them this week, then you do have to worry about. I agree with you, Albert. What the club are going to be in if we don't win the Europa League and we don't finish in the top 6, the club have got to make a massive decision. And it's all very well people saying, "Oh, well, Arteta hasn't had a pre-season, he hasn't had enough time, he hasn't had this, he hasn't had that." But ultimately, by the end of this season, he would have had 1 full season and half a season before that as well. We've bought players in that he's wanted in terms of Gabriel, Thomas Partey. He's got Cedric on a longer deal. We've got Pablo Mari on a deal, and he's got a couple of loans in, Odegaard, etc. So he's got players in that he's wanted, and there hasn't been any improvements for me at the moment. And yes, we could finish the season strongly. We did last year. We won the cup. So who knows? Let's. While we're still in the Europa League, I'm going to believe that we can win it. I agree. It's going to be very difficult. And you look at some of the teams left in it, and you're thinking, can we do it? But last year we beat Man City, we beat Chelsea. So who knows? But if we don't do that and we don't finish in the top 6, then it is a massive summer for Arsenal in lots of ways, because financially we're going to be in massive trouble. I say, as Mark put in a comment there about how much money Kroenke's lost already. He's not going to dip his hand in his pocket to help us out, is he?
No chance.
If we've got no European football, are we going to be able to attract the top players anyway without European football? that's another issue. Yes, we're Arsenal, and I suppose we've still got a pull, but it is a big, massive issue that we're going to have. Let's hope that one way or the other we can squeeze into Europe. Still in the league, I still think it's possible. It's not that likely, but we show we can string together 3 or 4 wins. We did it before. We can possibly do it again, and it might be enough. I don't know, but I mean, what are you thinking, Dorsey, then about the whole situation? And if we don't win the Europa League, is the Europa League the main thing now for us? And if we don't win it, is that it for Arteta, do you think, at the end of the season or before the end of the season if we get knocked out early?
So the first thing I'll add is that I went into this season, when I took into account all the external factors and everything else that's kind of happened everywhere for the last 12 months, I had no expectations for this season. I didn't, because I didn't want to be disappointed more than anything. I expected a relatively poor season. I didn't expect anything too special for us. And I've said it on your show before, Rich, that the worst thing that could have happened to Mikel Arteta was winning that FA Cup. That was the worst thing that could have happened, because it's put unnecessary pressure on him, and it's lifted that expectation through the roof before he's even got started. So that, for me, was the worst thing that could have happened. And looking at the picture now, I'm Arteta's biggest fan, and I want more than anybody to see him succeed at the club. But they are going to have a decision to make if we don't. I don't see us winning the Europa League. Unfortunately, I actually thought we'd struggle against Benfica, and like after that, Albert said we should have. It should have been done and dusted. We should have won that game comfortably. I don't know. I don't want to see him get the sack. I really don't, because. And the problem I've got, and the only problem I've got with Arteta, is he's got a master plan in his head, but the chances of being able to execute that master plan with the right players is near on impossible. If he gets it right, I honestly think we'd be unbelievable. But I don't see it happening. When you look at the board and the people and financially what's happened over the last 12 months, not having the fans, not having European football, we've got owners that just, and they don't care. They're not interested about what happens to the club. So,
Dorsey, I don't think they will. I don't think they will. I don't think they will. And I think he will at least get another season. I do strongly believe that, and I kind of want to see him get another season, because I am curious about what he can bring. There is a reason why Pep Guardiola, Jurgen Klopp, there is a reason these people are coming out and praising Arteta. There has to be a reason why the best in the world coaches rate him so highly. So for me, I'm curious, and I'd like to see him be given another 12 months. He's 50% of the way into the job, in the sense that he's got rid of a lot of the bad eggs that we needed to get rid of. Some of the dead wood that needed to go, that's now gone. But financially, we have to be able to back him, and that's where I see the problem, because I don't see us having the finances to do that, which ultimately could be what we all think might happen, whether or not that be the end of this season or next season. But I'd like to see him be given another year and to be backed financially properly and see what he can do. But I agree that not winning the Europa League, not finishing in the top 6, there's a long way to come back from that, isn't there? And it's going to be difficult for him. But I agree with Albert. Regardless, I don't think they'll sack him. Can't see it.
I mean, I think, and I believe this to, it's other managers like yourself said it. I actually think Arteta is a very good coach, and I called him in one of my videos a whiteboard coach, because I think tactically he can put things out on the board, and this is how we want to play. Fantastic. And I think he's got great ideas, but when it comes down to it, there's a mixture of one. I don't think he maybe can express it very well to the players maybe sometimes, and also we don't always have the players who can carry it out to the level that's needed to improve the team, and maybe that's the problem. And unfortunately, if we're not in Europe next season, we're not going to get the budget so we can bring in the players. We'll be shopping at Lidl instead of at Harrods for players in the summer, and unfortunately, that's what's going to happen. So he's still not going to have the players he needs to improve us. It's a kind of a catch-22, isn't it? If we're not in Europe,
markets available, mate. Just to say that.
Yeah, I'll be too much. They are indeed, yeah. But yeah, but yeah. So that's the catch-22 that we're in, isn't it? Because if we don't get in Europe, he won't have the money to get the players he wants, which means we're not going to really improve significantly. And subsequently, then, well, the problem is if we get rid of Arteta, who are we going to get in? Still with no money to spend, and that's the problem we've got. I mean, Anthony, what are your thoughts on it? I mean, do you think that if we get knocked out either tomorrow or at some point before the final and don't make the top 6, is that the end for Arteta, and should it be the end?
Well, I think in terms of what our focus should be on, I think the Europa League presents win it. I think it just presents the probably best opportunity for us to kind of save the season. And the reason why I feel that is because we're so inconsistent. We need to pick up so many points in the league now, and we just don't have the form and consistency to do that, I believe. Whereas I feel with the Europa League, okay, all the way up to the final, you at least get 2 cracks at it. You at least get 2 legs. So you saw against Benfica, we didn't show up at all. We could have won that game, but we didn't take our chances. I honestly believe that was a very, very poor Benfica side.
Yeah.
Extremely poor. Now, look, I could be completely reevaluating this on Thursday if it goes the wrong way, but I definitely think we're good enough. If we show up, like I said, we're inconsistent. So we showed up the way we showed up against Man City. We showed up the way we showed up against Benfica the first leg. If we show up against Benfica the way we showed up against Leeds, okay, it's a different story altogether. We should breeze past them. So that's why I think, look, Europa League, if we don't play well in one leg, there's a chance we might show up for the second leg. So I just think we've got 2 kind of bites at the apple there with the Europa League. So with the league, we need to be winning every game, or at least picking up points every single game. We're not going to do that. Realistically, we're not. We're going to lose more games, whether we like it or not. We are going to drop points in the league. In terms of whether the Europa League, the European finish, whether it saves Arteta or not. To be honest, I remember listening to David Ornstein early in the season, and I think it was when we were on our run of 7 games without a win. And he'd come out and said that from everyone he spoke to in and around Arsenal, they said the only thing that is ruling Arteta out of being Arsenal manager next season is relegation. Yeah. Other than that, they are backing him 100%. And to be honest as well, with no fans in the stadium, yeah, there's a lot of pressure, but we're only hearing the noise on social media and the likes of these platforms and that. I don't think the guys in the stadium and in the boardroom and that, yeah, they're aware. I've absolutely no doubt, but I don't think the pressure is the same. When you don't have 60,000 fans booing, I think the pressure is slightly different, and I think Arteta knows that as well. And I always say, look, whether he's the best man for the job or not, you've got to give the guy the tools he needs to succeed. And in a sense, I think Arteta has been set up to fail at Arsenal. There's a reason why a top coach didn't want that job. There's a reason why we got a first-time coach in that position. Because let's be fair, look, if I'm offered the Arsenal job in the morning with the credentials I have in management, I'm not saying no. You know what I mean? Inevitably, I know I'm going to fail. I'm going to get sacked. But I'm going to give it a shot. Whereas, say, a guy like Allegri, he's not going to put his reputation on the line, having won Serie A how many times. He's not going to come to Arsenal and go, okay, what's my budget? 50 million for the season, and I've got Man City to compete with, and Liverpool, and Man United, and Chelsea, and they're all going to improve their squad. And what you want me to bring players up from the under-23s, and you want me to use Granit Xhaka every week? You're going to be like, no, you can forget about it. I'm gonna go to Bayern Munich or something. It's not going to happen. So if we do miss out on Europe as well, again, it becomes an even harder job to rebuild, and it rules us out of the market again for coaches that are potentially available. They're going to say, okay, fair enough, coming into this season, if you didn't want the job and you at least had a shot at Europe, next season, if you don't have it, you're going, you're all right. We'll see how Arteta gets on the next season or so, and then we'll reevaluate the situation. I honestly don't think. I think they're going to give him another crack at it, regardless whether you think it's the right decision or not. I do think he's going to get another crack at it next season. And to be completely fair, as I said, I would like to see him get another shot next season. I think this season it's a massive task for him. It's his first year as a full manager. He was a coach last season, let's not forget. So this season, he's literally learning the insides and outsides of actual football club management. He's not doing it very long, and I said he's not got any advisors behind the scenes. He's no experienced guys giving him a hand. You can even see on the touchline on a match day, he's completely lost when it's not going Arsenal's way. He's lost. He has nobody there to say, look, this is maybe what you should do. You should try this. I don't think he's anyone at the training ground that's giving him ideas. I think he's literally been given full control, and it's a case of, look, you're a manager, you call the shots, and to be fair, he's learning. And my honest belief is, whether you like him as Arsenal manager or not, I do think he may do his time at Arsenal. He may not be, the man to restore glory to Arsenal, but I'd like him to be there long enough to maybe put the foundations in place for the next man, because I can see what he's trying to do.
Yeah,
I don't believe he has the tools to complete the job, but I can see what he's trying. And I honestly think he will move on from Arsenal eventually and be successful elsewhere. I honestly do believe that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, but probably at a club that's got a budget to spend and get the players in. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I actually think that even a coach like Pep Guardiola would probably struggle at Arsenal to to be as successful as he is, because of the restrictions that there are at a club. And unfortunately, if we're not in Europe next season at all, those restrictions are going to be even worse, and it's going to mean Arteta's going to end up, and my kind of worry maybe, because I do like Arteta, I'm not sure if he's the right man for what we need, but I do like Arteta, and my worry would be that if he stays, say, next season when we've got even less of a budget and we drop even further down, that he's going to be held responsible in later years for the man that took Arsenal all the way down the league. And that's my worry actually with it, and I don't really want that for him, because I think he doesn't deserve that. Because I agree with you, it's not necessarily 100% his fault. He's making mistakes, and that's something that Albert's back in again. He's making mistakes, but I don't want him to be the one that's always associated with taking Arsenal to mid-table for 2 or 3 years in a row. In the same way that Bertie Mee had that issue in the 1970s. He'd won the double, and then he took us to the brink of relegation. And I don't want that to happen for Arteta. And I would rather either he leaves before it gets to that point, or he's given the right, as you said, the right tools to be able to take us back in the right direction. I mean, to me, it's how quickly things have changed for us. From the season we dropped out of the Champions League, which we did win the FA Cup that season as well, but how quickly we've dropped away from being consistently top 4 to suddenly now mid-table, and that's happened really, really quickly, hasn't it? And I don't blame Arteta for that at all.
Rich,
but it's where we are.
Yeah, Rich, I was going to say, it's the way the landscape's changed at Arsenal. It'll be interesting to know what the guys think. Is that we've been sort of force-fed for years that we don't have enough money to buy players. Now the narrative's changed that we don't have enough money to get managers. I mean, to me, it's crazy. I mean, I understand if you're, I mentioned it on my sort of show last time in terms of, are these clubs now looking at, Julian Nagelsmann, getting a job at 28. A lot of clubs are thinking, you know what? There's not many Klopps out there. There's not many Guardiolas out there. It's slim pickings in terms of experienced top tactical coaches. So I understand that a lot of clubs looking at this model now think, you know what, we might go younger. That's why the likes of Lampard and Rooney and Gerrard and Arteta have come through and got jobs with no experience. I don't think it's probably the best way if you look at a Chelsea and an Arsenal, because the clubs are too. With Arsenal's a bit different because we've gone through a systemic decline with the way this football club's going on and off the pitch. Yeah, they're trying to fix things off the pitch. I get it, but Anthony's right. He has been set up to fail because he's gone from coach to manager. Why has he been given that? It's to deflect the blame away from the pool. I'm telling you, mate. That's why they've done it.
Yeah, possibly. It did seem a strange decision when, from within 5 or 6 months of taking over, and he won the FA Cup as he was as head coach, if you like, and suddenly they've given him more responsibility, possibly more. I suppose that's what it is essentially, and suddenly he's found that difficult maybe to deal with as well, on top of his coaching role. And maybe he would have been better off just being a coach and maybe bringing in a director of football or something else above him or alongside him. That's he needed someone who maybe with a little bit more experience. And I think maybe that's perhaps where the club went wrong. And maybe that's something that we could still sort out, maybe, if it's still possible to do that at the end of the season. If we're going to keep Arteta, maybe get a director of football or somebody with more experience that he can feed off. I know he's got a good coach in Steve Round, who's an experienced coach, but I don't know, maybe someone who understands Arsenal a little bit more experience. Maybe there's a lot of ex-Arsenal players who are in the market at the moment for sort of managerial jobs. Maybe they could come into Arsenal in a director of football kind of role, or a head coach role, possibly alongside Arteta. Maybe.
Sorry, Rich. We got the guy. Your name. We got the guy Richard Garlick in it. But that's going to take time, mate. That's going to take time, because we've got Arteta, who's an experienced, Edu, who's an experienced. Yes, Vinay's been at the club a long time, but he's not experienced in the role that he's in now. So you've got 3 guys in 3 major positions at Arsenal Football Club.
They're all learning on the job.
It's crazy, Dorsey. It's madness.
The thing is, this has been coming for 15 years.
Yeah, 100%.
The second we left Highbury and we were force-fed that dream of becoming the biggest club, one of the biggest clubs in the world. The second we started paying that stadium off, and you could see all the best players that we had, this has been coming for 15 years, and I'm surprised it's taken this long. I really am. I expected it. I expected us to drop off whilst we were paying off the loans, properly. And I think when you look at the bigger picture and you look at the whole joke of 4th place being a trophy and people taking the mick out of that and always getting Champions League, I mean, you'd bite your hand off to have that back now. And if you're saying about getting someone back that knows the club, bring Arsene Wenger back as something, a director of football. Bring him back as in some capacity. A lot of fans are calling and saying that they want him back now. Well, all the same fans that wanted his head.
Wanted him out,
But the thing is, there's nothing you can do now that's not a risk. Anything you do now, you get rid of Arteta and you bring someone else in, that's a risk. You give Arteta time to bring his own players in, that's a risk. You bring an ex-player back to be involved in some kind of capacity, they risk losing a legacy, because you're not going to bring you're not going to bring Henry back or anyone like that. It's only going to be someone like a Bergkamp or maybe an Overmars that was mentioned just a minute ago in the chat. Maybe someone like that's kind of building some kind of reputation. But when you look at all the other players that have gone out to try and be managers and be coaches, no one else has really been successful. Vieira's been pretty average. Henry's been average. None of them have really taken to management. All of these younger managers that have come about, you're probably looking at Nagelsmann and maybe Gerrard, albeit it's in Scotland. But Gerrard's done an unbelievable job in that league. Yeah. Whether or not he could carry that into the Premier League or into a tougher league, then you don't know. And it'll be interesting to see how Rooney gets on. But none of these young managers really have set the world alight. So whatever you do now, there's going to be some kind of consequence. Something is going to be a risk. So do you try and nullify that risk and say, let's give someone 2, 3, 4 years, regardless of what happens, let's give him the time to try and do something, because whatever we do, you're taking a risk. And I would hate to see us become a Chelsea. And don't get me wrong, their model has worked for Chelsea. They've won trophies, they've done this, they've done that, but it doesn't sit well with me seeing people come in and out the club like that. It just does not sit well, and I wouldn't want to win trophies like that. So for me, I don't know what the right answer is. I don't know whether Arteta is the right man for the job. Maybe he is, maybe he's not. But
it's bigger than him, isn't it? And I think the problem
it feels that way. It feels as if it's maybe come a little bit too soon for him, and maybe he just needs a bit more help, like we've all said. But I think you need to. If Arteta's not going to work on his own, then for me the first option would be to bring someone in to help him. Don't just get rid of him, because that's not going to answer any questions. You might be successful the following year, but then ultimately you're going to end up back where we are now, because that's just cycle of how it works. And it's
well at the moment, look, we're trying to lay foundations for something for the future, and our biggest problem in the background has been the consistency. You know, Gazidis ran off on us. The team of people Gazidis put in place, they're all gone. You know, Sanyehi and everyone else, Husfami, they're all gone. We haven't had that consistency.
No.
And it seems to be the answer for the fans is constantly, you know, change it. Instead of giving it a chance, like we're a year and a half into Arteta, you know, give it a chance. Like a year and a half, it's not a long time, especially when you look at the job. Look at the job.
And given everything else that's happened as well in his first 18 months. Imagine what he's had to put up with. It's just mad.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I get that completely. I do understand that completely. And yes, there's that side of it. But then you've got to say, for example, David Moyes at West Ham's had the same amount of time, and look what he's done there. Look where they are. They're top 4 in the league, with what you would have to say is probably a worse squad than we have. So I don't think we can just look at it and say he hasn't had time. He's had as much time as a lot of other managers. He's had more time than some. He had more time than Frank Lampard, for example.
Yeah. But you know, the thing is, like, David Moyes has a managerial background. He has experience, and you know, again, this comes back to Arteta's lack of, and you know, who's David Moyes got in the background advising him and doing the other jobs. You know, like how much power is Arteta being given? You know, what is he doing every day? Like, is he on the coaching ground, and then he's off doing all sorts of other jobs that he's still learning and are shifting his focus elsewhere. You know, he's not just concentrating on picking the starting 11 anymore. You know, he's doing the other jobs, and maybe right now it's just a bit too much for him. And as I said, it'd be one thing if you took over somewhere like Man City and you're kind of going, right, well, it's okay. I know I've got, you know, 60 million I can spend on these targets here. Like this is a complete different ball game altogether. You know, like this is really learning, you know, jumping in at the deep end. I can't think of a more difficult, you know, high profile job that a first time manager could possibly take other than Arsenal Football Club.
I mean, these arguments on social media all the time about people saying, yeah, get rid of him, he's not good enough. But then you ask them, well, what's the solution then? If you get rid of Arteta tomorrow, who do you bring in? Who is there that's going to really, and how can you guarantee, what do you gauge success as? Because realistically, with that squad that we've got now, like you said earlier, Rich, you could bring in Guardiola. It makes no difference. When you've got an average squad that is, and I agree that we've got better players than some of the clubs that are currently sat above us, and I agree with that. So do I think the players could be doing more? Absolutely. But it's...
And would another coach get more out of them? That's the question, isn't it? Would another coach be able to get more out of some of the players that we've got? You know, we have got some very good players that would probably walk into many teams that are above us in the league. You know, so if we maybe did get another coach in who maybe has got a little bit more experience and of man management and all that other kind of stuff, you know, would they be able to gel the team together, certainly in the forward areas of the pitch, gel them together more, make us play better, get more out of Smith Rowe, get more out of Saka, get more out of Martinelli, you know, maybe get Aubameyang back scoring goals. You don't know. It's possible. It might not be. Maybe this is as good as it gets with the players that we've got. We don't know really, do we? Because we've been, as we've said, we've been on a downward spiral for quite a number of years. And one of the reasons why it didn't happen 15 years ago was because Arsene Wenger was extremely good at managing what he had and getting the maximum out of them and got us into the top 4 year after year. It would have been quite easy for us we could have finished 6th, 7th, 8th, several seasons under Arsene Wenger towards the end, quite easily with the squad that we had. But somehow he managed to keep getting us in the top 4. So maybe that delayed it a little bit. Maybe it would have been better if we'd finished 6th or 7th, 5-6 years before, because then we would have had to start the rebuild at that point rather than leaving it because we kept getting top 4. So sort of it was a double-edged sword in a way, wasn't it? We took it for granted that was in the top 4. We were getting the money for the Champions League, so we were ticking over, but we were heading for this point now. As soon as Arsene Wenger left, this is where we were heading, like you said, 10 years ago or more. You know, and unfortunately, it's all coming home to roost now, isn't it? Over the last couple of years.
the other element is that we've kind of the rest of the league has got better. When you look back 10 years ago, you didn't have Leicester, you didn't have Wolves, you didn't have Everton, who are now coming back on the up. You've got all of these sides. The whole league has got better, and we haven't, and that's the problem. If you'd have put our team now back 10 years ago, that team probably might sneak top 4 because you haven't got the rest of those teams that are also fighting for those spots. But you've got all of these other, I say smaller clubs, but you've got all of these other clubs that are managed the right way. You look at the model that Leicester have got, for example. I can't think of a better run club in the league than someone like Leicester. The way they run, the way they spend, the way they sell their players. We've been notoriously awful at selling players for some time now. We get nothing for any player that we ever sell. And it's more often than not, we let players that are worth 40, 30, 40, 50 million go for nothing. There's loads of examples of that. So, yeah. I don't know what the answer is, but I think this is going to be us for at least another 18 months, unfortunately.
Well, I mean, to be honest, unless we're in Europe next season, I think it's going to get a lot worse before it can even improve. As you said, other clubs have improved, other clubs are investing more, other clubs are maybe in a better financial situation than maybe we are. I know it's difficult times at the moment for everyone, but I believe that if we're not in Europe, I think that's going to really hit us, and I can see it getting a lot worse before it gets better, whether that's with Arteta, whether it's with someone else. Like you said, I don't necessarily think that the coach or the manager is necessarily the only problem, because it isn't. And changing the manager might not necessarily make a lot of difference if a new manager isn't given the investment that's needed in the team, because we are stuck now with some very average players that unless we can replace them with better, we're not going to improve, are we? And unfortunately, we're in a situation where we probably can't replace them with something better, or maybe one at a time, but it's going to take years and years and years. And by that time, the good players have left anyway, or their contracts have run out, or they've moved on, or they've retired, or whatever it is. We are probably 4 or 5 big players away from being able to compete on a consistent basis in the top 4, aren't we now? I think we are in the squad, and we're not going to buy that in one transfer window. It's going to take 3 or 4 transfer windows, which is you're looking at 2 seasons, and by that time we could be mid-table or worse. Yeah, especially if we're not in Europe.
Yeah, I was going to touch on like you were saying, Rich and Dawsey, in terms of how Leicester are run. But what I'd say even further to that is, and I said it before, like I'm very consistent with it, that I look at Liverpool and they're a huge club, man. Like I said, they've got some unbelievable players, very good managers. And they couldn't get a league title for almost 30 years. Now we're 17 years in. We're going to have a very bumpy road. I don't think Arsenal will win the Premier League in the next 10 years. And that's
Don't say that.
No, Rich, you have to be real, man. Seriously, because like I said,
you're probably right. You are.
Liverpool's the benchmark, mate. They're a club with a massive history, man, and they just could not. They didn't even win the Premier League, and they had to go back to the old First Division before they won a league title.
Yeah,
I used to say Arsenal were a big club, but listen, mate, we're a sleeping giant, and there's going to be a lot more bumps in the road past Arteta. And I think the big issue is Kroenke's been a problem for a long time, but the difference this time is he has 100% ownership, and there's still problems at Arsenal.
Yeah,
I don't think people was expecting miracles to happen in his first full year of ownership of the club, but we stagnated, man. We're not moving. There's no trajectory there at all, and that's the problem, mate. Like, so I don't know. Arsenal fans are not going to wake up tomorrow and go, "Oh, you know what? I can't go to wait another 3 or 4 years. I'm going to support someone else." Then we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. But the pain is going to be. It's going to take a lot more pain, in excess of 4 years.
Where's Josh gone? Because he was everywhere for a short period of time, Josh Kroenke, wasn't he? He was, I'm here, I want to be more visible to the fans, I want to be more transparent, I want to be this, I want to be that. Where's he? I can't even remember the last time I heard from him or saw him, or they don't. The bottom line is it was a moneymaker for them, for them as a family, and that was what it was. It was a club that seemingly because of the way we always got top four, it was a consistent money. And that was all it was to him. You can't tell me for 1 second that he cared. He doesn't care about the club. He didn't care about what happens to it. Josh Kroenke, maybe he came out for a little bit and almost made me believe that there was someone that that wanted to be a bit more involved and maybe cared a little bit more, but he seems to have jumped overboard again. And the bottom line is, until you've got somebody that owns the club, that wants the club to be successful, it's not going to be. You have to want to be, and it's not just football. That's in any walk of life. If you want something to be successful, you have to want it to be successful. And the bottom line, we got, like you just said, you've got a guy that owns 100% of the club that doesn't give a shit.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that gives me maybe a little bit of hope is, it's been well reported how much money the Kroenkes have lost over this last year or so from their own businesses. So maybe if they're losing money at Arsenal, they might think, right, let's sell up. And there's that guy from Africa, isn't there, who's apparently wanting to buy us, rich guy. He wants to, he's a supporter of the club. He wants to, make the club successful. So there's a possibility there for me that if the Kroenkes are losing money elsewhere and they're losing money at Arsenal, surely it would make sense for them to sell the club. They'd get a decent wad of money, wouldn't they, for selling it on? And then we might have an owner who does care and who is willing to invest in the club and to make the club successful. And then maybe we can move forward. That could be what happens now. It has been a difficult year financially, and who knows, maybe this could ultimately be something that benefits the club in the long run if it means Kroenkes are going to sell up. I mean, why would they remain at the club? I agree with you. They've been there for the money side of it only, clearly. Didn't they just built a stadium or something in America, didn't they, with money off Arsenal? Yeah. So if they're losing money from Arsenal, why would they remain owners? Why would they do that? Surely if they're all about money, they'd sell up, get a big wad in and go and invest in other things that's going to make them money, and then let Arsenal be taken over by someone who does care and will invest in the team, will invest in the club properly and take us forward. But that's something that is maybe more of a possibility now than perhaps it was a year ago for that reason, because of the finances that's gone on in the world in the last year. So let's hope that, fingers crossed, we can get some positives out of the financial crisis that we found ourselves in, because if it leads to that as an end result, then surely that's a good thing, isn't it, for everybody?
Yeah, I just don't see anything changing until that happens.
Exactly.
I just don't see anything changing, and it doesn't matter who you put in that managerial seat. I just don't see it changing. I don't see anything changing.
So let's say, for example, right, let's be optimistic here and say that at the end of this season, we're not in Europe, so we haven't got the money coming in. The Kroenkes think, you know what, this isn't for us anymore. We're not making any money from this. We're losing money. It's costing us. Let's sell up. So they sell up to the African dude. He comes in and says, right, okay, I've got all this money now. Would you keep Arteta to spend all that money, or would you say, right, let's actually look to get in an experienced manager with a big budget? Because we would have a big budget then, wouldn't we? And it would change the dynamics of it. Would you still keep Arteta at that point, or would you say, no, let's get someone more experienced in? Or would we say, let's give Arteta the chance to see if he can do something with this money? What were we thinking on that?
I think if I'm Mikel Arteta, I would want an opportunity to do that.
Cool.
and actually, as a fan, I've seen enough of what, and I agree with what Anthony was saying. I've seen enough of what Mikel is trying to implement, and the players that he's trying to bring in. The Gabriels, the Thomas Partey. These are players that we've been calling out for years. So for me, if they're the kind of players that he's wanting to bring in, and you've got someone that says, right, these are the players that you want, go and get them. If that's the case, and that's what Arteta wants to do, absolutely, I would give him an opportunity to go and hand-pick the players that he wants that are going to fit his master plan that he's got, and I would give him an opportunity to do that. Yeah, 100%.
But then, obviously, then we can't be as patient in time, can we? We would then obviously expect things to improve rather much more quickly than what they currently have been, wouldn't we? I suppose that puts more pressure.
I agree with that. Yeah, him being given a blank checkbook and being able to bring the players in that he wants, that brings a whole nother level of pressure onto what he needs to bring. There has to be progression after that, and if there isn't, then absolutely we need to look at that.
That's probably what ended up doing for Frank Lampard, wasn't it, in the end, I guess,
Yeah.
because of the investment that he'd had and it didn't work. And I suppose Arteta would be under even more pressure probably if that was the case.
But that's what Chelsea do. That's exactly what Chelsea have done for the last 10 years. They'll throw 200 million at it. They'll win a Premier League. 18 months' time, it's toxic again. They get rid of the manager. They're back Europa League. And then they'll go again. They'll throw another 200 million at it. They'll win something else. And that's just their cycle. That's what they've done for however many years. So it's I don't want to fall into that trap.
No, but unfortunately, I think if we had a big investment and it was a regular investment in the way that Chelsea and Man City have, that would probably be what would happen. Because unless you're winning trophies regularly and you've got that much money, you're not going to last. And that would be the situation. We'd be in that situation if we get this new owner who's going to splash out money. I mean, I know it's probably a silly question for you, Anthony, but I mean, would you trust Arteta with a big war chest of money if that was to happen? Would you trust him, or would you rather someone else get that money?
Yeah, look. I think it'll only be fair to give him a chance. Only be fair. Look, at the end of the day, was he 38 years of age? He's got a reputation, with Guardiola and Klopp and all. That they see the potential in him. Myself and Dawsey, definitely, we can see the potential. Maybe Richard and Albert, maybe I'm not sure whether you agree with us, but we see the potential. We see what he might be able to do. He's working with very little at the moment, in my opinion. Squad-wise, financial, everything. He's doing the best of his current ability. He's learning. I think, look, if we got a big cash injection next season, he's a year into management. He's got a year of having made mistakes, a year of trying to figure things out and correct them with very little at his disposal. I'd like to think he'd be a little bit better set up to take on the job, with more money. Edu as well, he's a year into his Arsenal technical director job. At that stage, he's made his contacts, identified targets. You'd like to think in a year's time we're a hell of a lot better set up than we are currently. So I think we'd be better prepared. And look, I think like a coach like that, he's whatever about how Arsenal are currently performing. I think if you let him go, a lot of clubs will come looking for him. And as I said, I do think he will go on to be successful elsewhere. I think he has the right ideas. And as I keep saying, maybe it's the inexperience, the naivety, maybe it's a bit of a stubborn trait, some of the decisions he makes. Like, I don't even want to bring up his name. It begins with a W, but he keeps throwing him on the pitch every day. Maybe that's the stubbornness of the man saying, you know what, I can get something out of him. Hopefully it's something in the contract saying, no, you have to play him X amount of games or X amount of minutes. But yeah, look, I can see what he's trying. I do see what he's trying. And I just think, look, if he's given the tools, he'd have definitely a better crack. But as you said, look, if he is given the funds and, the directors and everyone at board level, you give him all the tools to succeed. If it doesn't happen, it is going to be a Frank Lampard job all over again, and we move on.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, what about yourself, Albert? What would you want Arteta to be given this money? Should it happen and we get taken over and we've got a massive investment? Would you want Arteta to have that responsibility, or would you rather it go to someone who, maybe an Allegri or someone of that stature instead?
Well, firstly, I wanted to move on some of the players that are still here and not been doing particularly very well for a few years. That would be a start. I wasn't going to mention Willian. I was going to mention good old Hector Bellerin, but we'll talk about that another day. But
he wants to leave anyway, apparently, doesn't he? So that might not be such an hard decision to come to if he wants to go.
Don't get me started, man. But you know what it is. I think I agree. Like, it's not. Listen, I don't think I've been too harsh with Arteta when I've spoken about him, like on my content wise. But yeah, I can see what he's trying to do. People talk about not having the players and whatever, but then I take into account, like I said, Rich, he's not like he's a. I get it, he's inexperienced, but I would get it even more if he got brought over from another league and didn't know the league at all.
Yeah,
but he played football in this league for so many years. He's seen the league in and out, man. Like some of the decisions are baffling.
He played for the club, didn't he? Let alone anything else. Let alone playing in the Premier League. He actually played for Arsenal, captained Arsenal. So if he doesn't get it, then who will?
Yeah, as for the Dangote links, like I'll have to speak to my Nigerian contacts, man, to see how to see what's really. Listen, that take that. Believe me when I say this to you, take that with a pinch of salt. That, trust me. But yeah, we'll see. Time will tell. But you know what? I think to give Arteta the opportunity, which I think Arsenal will do, mate. I think. You would give him the chance. You would give him the money to spend in that transfer window, because then he's got no excuses. It's not a case of what if. Another year. You give him that time. Like I said, you give somebody enough rope to, you know what.
Yeah.
He's got no excuses. So yeah,
and I actually think Mikel would be. I mean, he's a clever guy. He's not stupid, and he wouldn't hide behind anything. I honestly think that if he wasn't the man to take us forward, he would be the first one to come out and say, "Look, it's come too early. It was too big for me." Or he wouldn't. I don't see him hiding behind any excuses. I think he seems a pretty open and transparent person, and he seems pretty honest. So
I think he's made reference to the job being quite. You know, when he's in the box, he's like, you know what, this is a bit difficult. You know, this job is a bit bigger. I think
it doesn't take sitting in that seat for us to see it, though, does it? Just how big that job is. It's just
yeah.
I mean, maybe it comes down to. I mean, obviously, when he first came in, Arteta, you know, he was coming out with these things like the non-negotiables, and he came in, you know, giving it real passion for it, and as though this is what's happening. And yet, suddenly now, 18 months later. What were these non-negotiables? Because we don't seem to have had much evidence of them, do we? And yes, it's been a difficult year and it's a big job. Don't get me wrong, and I have sympathy with Arteta in a lot of these things. But ultimately, none of what he said at the beginning. I was excited when he made his first press conference. All those things he said, I'm thinking, wow, this guy is going to take us places. I'm not saying he necessarily won't eventually, but I've been quite underwhelmed since then with how it's gone. And he's changed completely in what he says now to what he did at the beginning, and maybe the realization of maybe he came in thinking it wasn't quite as difficult. It was going to be as difficult as he assumed, and some of the players are maybe more difficult for him to deal with. I don't know, but it seems as though he's changed completely, tacked on it all now. And yeah, maybe that's partly, I'll say, the understanding of it all. But I don't know. I had big hopes for him at the beginning, and he hasn't lived up to my expectations. I don't think he's lived up to the expectations that he portrayed himself when he first walked in the door that day. You know, I don't think any of us, he wouldn't have been our first choice at the time, would he? I don't think, because of his inexperience. But he came in and said all the right things, and I was like, wow, this guy knows what he's doing. He is the man to do this job and take this on and, you know, sort it out. Because at the time we were in a bit of a mess. The end of Emery was a mess, and unfortunately, it hasn't happened, has it, like that? And we're still in the same mess we were 18 months ago. It's a slightly different mess with slightly different issues, but ultimately we're still in a mess, and it hasn't improved. And all those things he said, he hasn't been able to do. Now, yes, some of that's not his fault, I agree, but some of it is. And you know, and this is just where we are with it. I mean, Mark in the chat is a Leeds fan. He said, obviously, we played well against Leeds. We did, and they're above us in the league, and that does kind of sum up where we are, unfortunately, doesn't it? You know, we've played well against certain games, and unfortunately, we haven't been consistent, and that's why we are where we are. Joe says there he wanted Brendan Rodgers. I don't know. I'll tell you what I wanted, and I would have took in November and December when we were struggling. I would have took Tuchel. I must admit. I was seriously thinking Tuchel, and he's coming to Chelsea, and so far he's done well. I know they've got better players, they've got a better squad, they've got more money, but he hasn't really spent anything yet because he's only just come in there. But he seems to have improved what was there, and I think he could have done the same at Arsenal. But I'm not dissatisfied that we've still got Arteta yet. But I do feel as though, as I said at the beginning of the show, really, if we don't win the Europa League and if we're not in Europe next season, I honestly don't see how the club can keep him, regardless of the process that we might be through, and regardless of whether someone else can come in and do better. I just don't know how he can keep his job. You know, we're Arsenal. How much longer? How much time should we give a manager who isn't producing results? How long do we give them? That would have been a full season and half a season, and we would have gone backwards in those 18 months. You know, I'm not saying that yet because the season's still going. We've still got 2 opportunities to get into Europe next season still, for the time being, certainly until Thursday night.
Sorry, mate. I was going to say, you said Mark's a Leeds fan, did you say?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I just want to quickly pick up on that before you. I mean, you've interviewed a lot of different fans from other clubs, Rich, and I've been lucky enough to sort of, and a lot of them do say the same thing, mate.
Yeah, no, they do, yeah.
So to get a different perspective from another club, that's not, you know, you haven't got no loyalty towards Arsenal. It is interesting, mate. So, yeah, I think that's pretty interesting to hear that, actually.
I agree. One of the main things I've noticed this season from speaking to fans of other clubs is a lot of them say almost the same things that we say in terms of the way that their club is run, that the manager, the tactics, the finances and everything. Every club, well, not every club, but most clubs seem to have, or the fans seem to have the same kind of opinions of their club as we have of our club. So it isn't just us. And I think we all maybe... we think our club's in a worse situation than everybody else because it's our club and it means more to us, I guess, and we don't see it from outside, do we? But I certainly got that impression that most fans of other clubs feel pretty much exactly the same. And, you know, I guess it's just football, isn't it? Modern football maybe now when the finances are so important and I think people judge success, I think, differently now to years ago. It used to be different, didn't it? The way what was considered a successful season maybe 5, 10 years, 15, 20 years ago now isn't a successful season anymore. And for Arsenal, certainly, I mean, for other clubs, it's maybe changing the other way. I mean, Aston Villa, for example, look at them now. They won the European Cup once, and now they're going to be delighted to finish in the top half of the Premier League. And that's success for them, isn't it? I guess it's how things change for your club, I suppose. But it's interesting.
I'll go back to it. This is 15 years in the making. How quickly did we honestly think we were going to get out of this? How do we even know this is the worst it's even going to get?
No, well, we don't. I agree.
We don't know if we're at the bottom of it, and we're going to all of a sudden turn a corner and start going back the other way. It's going to take time. We had the same manager for 22 years, and listen, I know everybody's going to say, "Oh, look at Man United," because they were in a similar position where they had Ferguson for so long, but look how long they were out of it. Now I know they might have won a Europa League in between that, but they've been up and down. They haven't been consistent. They've not done anything really since Ferguson left. And I'm sorry, but they are punching well above their weight this season, because if it wasn't for Bruno, they would not be anywhere up there. They'd be down struggling with us, 100%.
And you think as well. I mean, using Man United as an example, they've got in a lot of experienced managers, haven't they? Obviously, Mourinho.
And they spent money.
Yeah, they spent money. They had Van Gaal before that, experienced manager. You know, they had David Moyes, who's an experienced manager as well. We can see what he's doing now. So yeah, I mean, they've suffered a similar problems, I suppose, to a certain degree. But they have got a lot more money overall to spend than we haven't, and that's maybe why they've had a little bit more success.
And they're still not out of it. What year did Ferguson leave? What year did he go?
2013.
What's that? 7 years.
9 years.
I mean, 8 years. Sorry. So you know what I mean? And they're not out of it. They're not by any means. They don't look like a team that are going to be challenging for the Premier League. Now I know they're third or second or wherever they are now, but they're not going to win it. And like I say, they wouldn't be there if it wasn't for Bruno Fernandes, because he's been unbelievable since he's come in. And I know he wins a lot of penalties and people don't necessarily like him, but when you look at his statistics, they're phenomenal for someone that's come into the league.
Yeah.
You know, so if it wasn't for him, and so for me, as the second Wenger walked out that door, I had in my head that it was going to take 4, 5, 6, 7 years before we were even remotely back on the way up. It's not. It's just a bigger job, and it's a bigger thing than just a manager. There's bigger issues at the club that I believe, and I think it all stems from the Kroenke. So I don't. Listen, this might not be the worst it gets, and I know this is a positive channel, and I know we try and look on the brighter side of life, and I try to, but it's I also try and be realistic in the sense that I genuinely don't think it matters who is manager. I really don't at the moment. I genuinely don't believe it's going to be any different. I think the only way you get out of it is by having a solid foundation to build from, And the only way you get that is by having stability. So I don't know. I might be wrong, but that's just my outlook on it. I just think if you're going to stand any chance of getting back, because we're never going to be a Man City, we're never going to be someone that's going to have a blank checkbook every single summer. So we need to find a different way to compete, because we're not going to do that. So, and I don't know whether this is the answer. It might not be, and it might get worse before it gets better. But you can't build anything without a solid foundation, and that starts from having a stable core of owners, board members, managers, and players. You can't build anything if you don't have that.
No, I agree. And to be honest with you, I don't particularly care who the manager is. Actually,
no,
I just want the club to be run properly, and I want to see us moving in the right direction. And whether it's Mikel Arteta, whether it's somebody else, I'm not particularly fussed either way. I just want to see the progression happen. And at the moment, we're going in the wrong direction. And I agree, it may well get worse before it gets better. And I think if we're not in Europe, as I said before, next season, I think it is going to get worse. I think it's going to get a lot worse, because I can't see how we can progress next season when we'll have no budget or not enough budget to get what we need. I can't see how we'll improve next season, whoever the manager is. I agree. It makes no difference.
And Rich, sorry, Dorsey, go on, mate.
No, that's all right.
Because people talk about, you see it on Twitter and so, Bergkamp come back Overmars. Let me tell you something, right? I don't want any Arsenal legend. And I think Overmars and Bergkamp are too smart anyway to be associated with Arsenal Football Club during this period with this ownership. I don't want any legend near the club until this guy's gone. It could take years.
Yeah. But if people referred back to, and you said it earlier, Richard, we are Arsenal, but there's no divine right just because we're Arsenal. 100%. You look at Villa, and they're a huge club. They've got a huge history, a huge tradition, and look what happened to them. We've got no divine right to be anywhere in that league. We've got no divine right to have certain players or have certain managers. It's just we need to earn that.
No, you're right. No, and it's not all right. But I mean, my point with that was more about the fact that during a game, as Arsenal, we shouldn't just roll over and let teams beat us.
And I agree with that. Yeah.
We should. Everyone who plays for Arsenal should have those standards. And Arteta came in saying that's what he was going to make sure that they had, and they don't seem to have. Which is that his fault only? I'm not sure, but that's something that annoys me a little bit, because he was full of that at the beginning, wasn't he, about the standards of the club. And that to me is what every single person that comes into the club, whether they're going to be on the board of directors, whether they're owners, whether they're players, whether they clean the kitchen, whether they cook, whatever they do, they should have that Arsenal standard. They should reach that Arsenal. That should be told before they start. This is the standards we expect from every single employee in the business. And that's how it should be. And unfortunately, we seem to have lost a little bit of that over the years. We used to be, Arsenal was noted, was respected throughout the world for the standards that we had on and off the pitch. And it seems to have we've lost that a little bit along the way, which is quite sad, actually. And I'm hoping that I thought Arteta was going to be one to really bring them back in, and he doesn't seem to have done. It seems like it's run away from him a little bit. I think he wanted to. I think he had hopes to do it, but for one reason or another, he hasn't been able to yet. Maybe if he's given the time, maybe he will eventually. I don't know. But that's what annoys me a little bit as well. And on the pitch, definitely massively we can see that. But off the pitch as well, behind the scenes and everything else, those standards that we had, the marble halls and, the guy that used to be there didn't need to greet people when they walked through and stuff like that. And, I'm not sure all that kind of stuff it goes on anymore. I think it's, maybe to a certain degree, but I don't think it's like it was. We were unique. We were always unique as a club. That was one of the things I always liked about Arsenal, the fact that we wasn't like every other club. And we've almost become like every other club in a way. We seem to have lost that uniqueness about us a little bit, really. It's got watered down. And
I completely agree with that. And it's the people like Ken Fryer and Peter Hillwood, it was a club that was run by a family that was supporters, and they supported the club. They grew up around the club, and I think that's died out in football in general. That's not just an Arsenal thing.
No, it is. No, I agree.
That's gone, unfortunately, and it's and I put on my social media the other day that I feel like I'm falling out of love with football a little bit. Not Arsenal as a club. It's still a huge part of my life, but football in general is just I just don't get the same buzz about it at the moment. I don't know whether that's things like VAR and the fact there's no fans, maybe all of that, and maybe the fact that we're not successful and it isn't a great watch at the moment, and it's just a culmination of all those things. But I don't get excited. In fact, I dread the next game just because you don't know what you're going to get, and you don't want to end up ruining another weekend or another midweek, and it's tough at the minute for all of us, and it's just don't know how we get out of it.
I totally agree, and I actually feel the same. I think I've started to my feelings about football in general have definitely changed in recent years, and maybe more so over the last year, like you said, with no fans at the stadiums and all the nonsense with VAR and the finances, the money that the players are earning, the fact that they seem to be earning money, don't care enough about the clubs, not just at Arsenal, everywhere. And I feel the same about it actually. And I don't know what can change it now. Maybe getting fans back in might help. The price of tickets doesn't help. It's going to be even more expensive because clubs are going to have to try and rake back the money they've lost. So I can see ticket prices going up next season when fans are back in, and season tickets will go up and everything else. So I don't know. I think it's going to be a long road back actually for football in general, not just for us as a club. But I feel exactly the same actually. I must admit my feelings have changed about it, and I don't watch as much football as I used to. Other clubs I don't really watch much anymore. I watch our games obviously, and even then, like you said, I don't feel the same excitement around them as I used to. But again, that's probably to do with the fact that we're not playing football that can be enjoyed, I suppose. That's probably part of it. And if we were winning games 5-0 on a regular basis, you'd probably look forward to the games a bit more, even though there's no fans in the ground and even though there's all the other nonsense that's going on. But I don't know. Yeah, the people that run football are one of the problems for me as well, and it's taken the joy out of it. When goals are disallowed by VAR because somebody's hair was a fraction offside, it's like that's taken all the joy away. I mean, that goal against Benfica last week was a typical example, the one that we scored, Saka, when it took half hour for him to decide it was a goal. It's like it's clearly a goal. Just give the goal and let everyone enjoy it and get on with it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just mad.
There was never any need for it. I was quite happy with the fact that throughout the course of a season, you'd have a couple go against you.
Yeah.
You'd have a couple go for you. But what it didn't remove was the emotion, because you were either fuming that you'd conceded a goal that shouldn't have been given or was offside or whatever. But on the flip side of that, just the feeling of getting a goal that maybe you've been a bit lucky and maybe our player was offside, that it evens itself out for a season. It always has done. But what doesn't even itself out is VAR. You look at all the decisions that have been overturned for different clubs. I mean, we're right near the bottom. I mean, what's that all about?
I mean, one of the best things for me about going to football was the drive home afterwards, talking about the bad decisions that you'd had, and then getting home, watching it on Match of the Day, and thinking, oh, actually, he was offside. After you just spent 3 hours moaning about it in the car. But that's part. It used to be part of the fun, didn't it? That used to be the whole experience of it. And now it's like that's taken away because you know that the decision's right, even though you don't agree with it. It's a right decision. You can't be disputed. So you can't debate on the way home because VAR have decided it was right, and that's it. And I don't know. It's not the same.
You can't even celebrate a goal now straight away because you have to wait 5 minutes before they've checked to make sure it's actually a valid goal. And then by then, the moment's gone. It's dead. It's just it's been allowed.
The other night, I had the Man United and Sociedad game on, and I can't remember. It might have been United's third goal, and it went to VAR. It was either third or fourth goal, and there was such a big delay. Yeah. And he finally gave it, and then all the players ran down one end of the pitch celebrating. I was sitting there going, how could you even celebrate now at this? I was like, it looked pathetic because there was about 2 or 3 minute gap, and then they all ran down one end to celebrate. And you're going, look, do you know what? The moment is gone. It's
but
done.
that must kill it for the players as well. That's not just a fans thing. That must completely kill it for the players as well.
But it was like that Jesse Lingard goal for West Ham, wasn't it? He celebrated. They had to wait for VAR, then he celebrated again and did another silly dance. 2 minits later, it's like
you see that Lingard goal. I could not understand what they was looking for.
No.
I thought it was handball, and then I heard it was offside. Like, he's not offside.
No, he's nowhere near offside.
I don't know what he was doing, mate. I really don't.
Can you imagine that goal again that we scored against Leicester a few years back, 2017, I think, that last-minute winner by Danny Welbeck?
Oh, what
Can you imagine if that had been disallowed for VAR for some reason? after all of that going on. Can you just imagine?
My friend's still killing me for the game, man. Screaming.
Well, imagine the Michael Thomas goal at Anfield, 1989. Imagine that's goes to VAR. You can imagine what that would have been like. That just
it's just killed it. Just completely killed it.
QPR that time. Imagine that.
Yeah.
Imagine if they disallowed it. That'd have been good. Then. Well, it wouldn't, I suppose. Man United would have won the league, but anyway. But no, I mean, it has changed football. It's changed a lot, hasn't it? And it's unfortunately very little of it's improved it as a spectacle and as an experience for fans either, really. And in a way, I suppose it's ironic, isn't it, in the sense that the first season that they bring VAR in full time in the Premier League, the season gets no fans in it halfway through, and there's been no fans in it since. So it's not like we've had a lot of experience of being in a ground with VAR because we wasn't to experience it very much before. There's been no fans. It'd be interesting to see what happens when fans are back again, and whether or not they're forced to change the way they use VAR. Because I don't think it would work with fans in the stadium the way they've been using it this season in particular. You know, the amount of time that they're taking over these decisions, and some of the decisions are just ridiculous, aren't they? As well, you know. The offsides in particular, the handballs and all this, that and the other. I don't know. I think with fans will make a massive difference. I think managers have had more time this season because no fans in the ground. There's only been 2 sackings in the Premier League this season, I think. Yeah. By this point in the season, usually there's 7 or 8, isn't there? At least. So I think managers have had more time. I think VAR's had more time. You know, I think the referees are getting away a little bit with it for the same reason, because they're not getting the stick from the crowd they would normally have got either. So they continue to make mistakes because it doesn't really matter. And I don't know, I just think that football's gone in a bad direction. And the main reason for that is because there's no fans I think the fans almost keep things in the right direction, because it's powerful, isn't it? When you've got 50,000 fans on the ground, it's so powerful, the message that they give out, whether it's against the manager, whether it's against the referee, or whatever it's against, you know, the players. It's such a powerful message, and that's what's obviously been missing for the last year or almost a year now. It's be interesting to see how that changes, I think, next season, actually.
Just scrap VAR and just get a young group of referees, a young core set of referees that have been brought up in and around this era of football, and not people like Mike Dean that are just still stuck in 30 years ago.
I agree with that. I mean, just before we kind of finish up, I mean, what's our score predictions for Thursday? First of all, what are you saying, Dorsey, for the Benfica game at home in Athens? Because that's obviously our home ground, which is nice.
I find myself doing these predictions, and in every game I sit there and think, well, it could be anything. It could be we could win 4-0, we could lose 4-0, or it could be 4-4. It could be anything in between, but.
Let's hope it's not 4-4.
No, it is a big game for us, and I do think we've got enough. So I'm going to go 2-0. I'm going to be quietly optimistic. Going to go 2-0.
That would be great. It keeps us in the competition for a little bit longer. What about yourself, Anthony? What are you thinking for Thursday? What did you make of Benfica the first game? They didn't offer much, did they? But I think it'd be different this time.
Yeah, look, if we show up right attitude, switched on, I cannot see Benfica causing us too many issues. Like Dawsey, I think 2-0. I think it's ours to lose. It's for us to go away. I don't think they have. No, look, maybe I'm completely underestimating them because of how they played, but they did draw 0-0 with the team bottom of the table there the other night when we lost against City. They're not in great shape from what I've seen. To be honest, no, look, it probably sounds like making excuses as well. I thought the pitch was very bad on the night and we couldn't play our kind of quick 1-2 football. The ball was very heavy. I think, you know, we get a pitch with a bit more zip in it, I think we'd tear them apart. Yeah. But 2-0, I think.
And we did win there last season as well in that stadium, didn't we, against Olympiacos in this same stage. There is away goals, actually, Joe. There is away goals, which is weird when there's no home advantage for either team, which seems very, very, very strange. So, yeah. What about yourself, Albert? What are you thinking about Thursday's result? Do you think we're going to go through, or are you expecting we might lose or draw, high scoring draw?
Like me mate Trev Hillsey for God's Yellow Ribbons, he'd probably say 4-0 Arsenal, but I'm not going to go there. But you know what? They have to come out and play. That's the difference going to the second leg. It's a huge difference. So that should help Arsenal. It should help Arsenal, inverted commas. So 2-1 Arsenal.
See, I'm not sure they're going to come out and play. I think they're going to keep it tight and hope to snatch a goal on the counter attack or a set piece like they did last week. Because they in their league, I know they're not playing particularly well. They're not winning many games, but they don't let in many goals. And I think they'll look at keeping it 0-0 for as long as they can and try to nick a goal, because we saw last week, they are the attack and they still scored. And they could potentially do the same again. And I don't know, we're not scoring a lot of goals. Maybe not being at home actually might help us, because we've not been playing well at the Emirates, have we? So, maybe it might be an advantage. I still think we will go through, because I don't think Benfica have quite got enough to beat us. So I think we will win. I think it's going to be tight. It could be 1-0 even, or like you said, 2-1 possibly. I don't think there's going to be a lot of goals in it. I did predict 3-1 on my video today, but I'm kind of changing my mind. I don't think we'll score 3.
I was going to say, you've only got 3 goals in us in one game.
No, I think they're too well organised at the back for us to score 3 goals, actually. I was just being a bit optimistic at the time. Maybe extra time. Maybe it's 1-1 at 90 minutes, and then we score 2 in extra time when they're knackered, maybe. Perhaps that's
covered all bases there, mate.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think we will win. And obviously, just we have got another Premier League game, unfortunately, on Sunday against another team that are winning games week after week. Leicester away. What are we thinking about that then, Dorsey? What are you sort of thinking for Leicester away, or do you not care?
Oh no, well, of course I care. But I can't see us. I can't see us winning it. I have to be honest. I think if we win it, that's going to be a huge result for us. I honestly can't see us winning it. I'd like to think we can get a point, but I honestly don't think we can win it. I don't know why. Just Leicester, they're playing really well. They're creating a lot of chances. Vardy, 9 times out of 10, will always bag one. So before you've even kicked off, you're 1-0 down. It's the same as when we played Tottenham in it, and Harry Kane always scores against us. So yeah, I can't see us winning it. If I'm being optimistic, something like a 1-1, 2-2, or something like that.
Well, that'd be all right, I suppose. I think we'd settle for that. What about you, Anthony? What are you thinking about Leicester?
I think a draw as well, especially depending on how Thursday night goes. I think if we win and then we know we've another game in the Europa League, I think he'd probably, he'd start making changes. He might start reserving some players, because the closer we get to the final, the more serious it's becoming. And I think he's gonna throw all the eggs in the Europa League basket as long as we're still in the competition. So I think we do well to get a draw out of Leicester.
Yeah,
I think we do well.
Yeah. What about you, Albert? Are you confident that we might win 4-0 against Leicester as well?
Our record's terrible there, man.
It is, yeah. We've lost the last 3 in the league.
Was it Rich? Was it 5-2?
Yeah, last time we won there. Yeah. I mean, we did win in the Carabao Cup this season, didn't we? 2-0. I know that was slightly different because it was a big weak and Leicester team and stuff like that. But yeah, we've lost the last 3 in the league there.
It's weird because when I looked at Arsenal's run of fixtures probably about 2-3 weeks ago, I actually said we'd get a draw, but I'm not too confident about that. Vardy's got a good record against most of the top 6 sides. To be honest, phenomenal. Maddison's on form. Tielemans quality. Pereira's back. Sionchu's back.
Maddison as well.
Yeah. I'll stick with 1-1. Actually, I'll stick with 1-1. I'm not confident. I'll say that, but I'll stick with 1-1.
I'm not looking forward to the next run of fixtures. The next
horrendous
horrific.
They've been horrific lately anyway, haven't they? I mean, I forgot about it. It's the early kickoff Sunday, isn't it? We never play well on an early kickoff.
Ooh, okay.
But let's remember as well. Let's remember Leicester are still in the Europa League as well. They're playing Thursday night, and of course, although it's their home leg, they're also playing away in Europe, so they've got to travel as well. And will they rest a few players for Sunday as well? So there's that to bear in mind as well. That they're going to want to win the Europa League. They're going to think they've got a chance because they're having a great season, aren't they? So I think that might go in our favour a little bit as well. Barnes is playing unbelievable at the minute, isn't he? Harvey Barnes.
You know what it is, Rich? Sorry, you know what it is with Harvey Barnes? Like I always say this about players, particularly in attacking final third. Goals elevate your game, man. So much.
Yeah, of course they do. Yeah.
He's on fire this season.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, and that's the thing, isn't it? You know, if you're an attacking player and you might play well, but you're not scoring goals, you don't get noticed. But once you start banging in goals, I mean, he's got what 10, 11, 12 goals this season, isn't he? Harvey Barnes, just unbelievable. He's got to be a good bet for the Euro squad, isn't he?
I can't stand it, but look at Jesse Lingard. Look at Jesse Lingard and what he's done in his first couple of games for West Ham as well. And I don't get me wrong, I hate that. I can't stand him, but I mean, he's come back, and like you said, goals just you change as a player, don't you? When you get a couple of goals, you become a different player, and it's just. I always
say if you're not gonna get, you have to get double figures in either goals or assists. If you don't do that, you're not seriously. You got to be. If you get it in both, fantastic. But you got to get double figures in either one or the other.
Oh, I agree. You got to do one or the other, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, I mean that's maybe where we're lacking, aren't we? Because we haven't got many players that have done either of those this season. That's the problem, you know. Certainly not in the Premier League, anyway. Even Saka had a great season. He's only 5 goals and maybe 4 assists at the moment, so he's not quite there yet, is he? But he's getting there. I suppose he will end up the season there. But yeah, no, it's going to be a tough game against Leicester. Really, I agree. I think we need to see how Thursday goes first. I think if we win Thursday, then the focus is not going to be on Leicester so much. Although if they're through, it might be the same for them. So who knows? But yeah, I'm not exactly confident, I must admit, and I'll take a draw in that game, and maybe Leicester will as well. You know, after their Europa League trip, Bamford has a shout at you. Well, he should do, but I don't think he will. I don't think he's that sort of player that's going to get in the Euro squad. When you look at, he's not going to get picked, is he, ahead of Harry Kane? And we only generally play with one striker, so I don't know. He might get in the squad maybe as a backup. But I don't know. I'm not confident. He should do. He should get a chance because he's been one of the top scoring English strikers, isn't he? Well, probably the second highest scoring English striker this season. So he probably deserves a shout. But he's never been that sort of player, has he? He doesn't look like an international player, does he? For me, I like him. I think he's had a great season, but he doesn't look like an international player that's going to win you the Euros, does he? Unfortunately. That's true, actually. Yeah, but no, I mean, so that was I suppose he has a good season though, so we should give him that. Well, I mean, thanks a lot for coming on, guys. It's been absolutely great. Actually, I really enjoyed it. Great conversation that we've had. We've decided that Arteta is going to get a little bit more time, and which is fine.
We've made the decision.
Yeah. So it was a good meeting, and we've decided that Arteta's staying a little bit longer. Whether we win the Europa League or whether we don't, he's still going to stay. And hopefully we're going to sell the club to someone else who's going to give a lot more money. And next season we'll do a lot better. So there you go. Joe said I should do where is it? I should do Euro watch-alongs. Yeah, maybe we'll do. Yeah. That could be quite a laugh, actually.
Yeah,
we've got 15 games of the season left yet.
We're looking for Euros already.
Yeah.
I know it's a short season, but I know we all want it to end, but come on.
Yeah, well, no. Exactly.
Euros to look forward to. I don't even have the Euros.
You just have to support England for us. Help us along as well. Help us out.
Not with Grealish coming to England, but he's not going to do that.
Yeah. All I have is Arsenal. Like, come on.
Well, no, that's true. Yeah, that's true. Unfortunately, maybe there'll be a few Arsenal players playing in the Euros, won't there? So you can support them, I suppose. Hopefully, Saka.
That's probably why I'm so well equipped to deal with Arsenal, because when you look at the Irish national team, talk about not having expectations. My God.
Brilliant. Yeah, no, that's a good point, actually. I suppose. Yeah. But anyway, yeah. I mean, we'll see. I'll say there's plenty of Arsenal players for you to get behind in the summer, anyway. So at various different countries, you just have to change team every game when an Arsenal player's in the game, whoever they're playing for. That you have to do that. So that could be good. I don't know if Switzerland qualify, because then you can support Xhaka, of course, when he's playing as well. Anyway. So yeah, I mean, thanks for you guys. So Dorsey, first of all, yeah, I mean, obviously great to have you back on again on a sort of an Arsenal show for something a bit different. Where can people find you on social media?
Yeah, enjoyed that, mate. Thank you. Just head over to my Twitter. You can see my handle there. It's @Dorsey2801. Come over, drop me a message, say hello, and we can have a chat. All things Arsenal.
Shane says you can't support England. Fair enough. We'll let you off that one, I suppose. And Joe's half Irish as well, so there you go. Someone else.
In fairness, I'm half English. My dad is from London, so.
Well, that means you're English, then, doesn't it? Really.
Can you imagine if the Euros involved like English Premier League teams? It'd be the equivalent of saying, "Well, Arsenal aren't in it to go and support Tottenham." That's pretty much the equivalent, isn't it?
Yeah, well,
maybe West Ham. Maybe West Ham, not Tottenham.
Maybe West Ham. All right.
I don't think I could even cheer for England, even if I wanted, with Harry Kane leading the line. I just don't think I could do it. I'd feel dirty.
Yeah. And Green is supplying him, innit, as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, Grealish, yeah. I'm sure he's popular there, isn't he? So, Anthony, as well, it's great to have you on the channel. First time that you've been on. Absolutely brilliant having you on. Obviously, give your channel a plug as well, because you're doing some great stuff there as well. Yeah,
look, cheers for having me. It was great to finally get on. I've been meaning to come on for a while, but yeah, life has me swamped with all sorts of it. So delighted I could finally get there. So look, you can find me on Twitter at Rep of Arsenal, and as you said, I do have my own channel, Republic of Arsenal. And for anyone that is interested, I have a show on tomorrow at 1:30. It's an early one, but I have a Benfica fan on again, Joe from Benfiquista Americano. So if anyone has seen, we did a preview for the last show, and he is just unreal. Like, his knowledge of Benfica is just crazy. He runs his own Benfica blog, and he speaks so well. And definitely check it out, because
don't mention Declan Rice. Gee, I'll tell you what, I've got some Irish mates. They're fuming.
Yeah. But they're not Declan as well. He's got to be Irish anyway. They're not Declan. No, I mean, that show sounds good, actually. Yeah, I mean, I had a Benfica fan on last week, and he had a great knowledge as well. So yeah, that was great. So definitely tune in to that tomorrow if you can, and I say subscribe to the channel as well, because it is there's some good stuff on there. And of course, finally, Albert, of course, my man, give your channel a plug as well, because I'll say you're doing some great stuff as well.
Cheers, mate. Nice to meet Dorsey, man, and Anthony, of course. Always welcome, mate. Rich, love coming to your channel, mate. You really put the work in, mate. Brilliant intros, everything, brilliant. But Albert JTV. My Twitter handle's AUMO57. Don't even think about coming to subscribe. Just do it and smash the like button as well.
Yeah. And obviously subscribe to Albert's channel, subscribe to Arteta'S as well. Follow Dorsey, but make sure you subscribe to this channel as well, because that's really important. Give it a like as well, and all that kind of stuff. I've got some other stuff coming up this week as well on the channel, so there's loads of things going on. I'm hoping to get. So I've got that Benfica fan Michael's on last week. I'm hoping to see if he might come back on, if he's available, maybe tomorrow to preview that game as well. And then I'll be doing a watch along of the Benfica game anyway on Thursday, and then obviously we're looking ahead to the Leicester game. I'm on a Leicester fan channel on Friday. I'm doing a show here on Friday as well. I'm on another Leicester channel on Sunday morning before the game. So I'm quite busy as well this weekend, and I'll be doing a watch along the Leicester game as well. So loads coming up.
Rich, you're going to have to start charging people, man. You're too popular, man.
Well, it's on the list, isn't it? Mind you, you've been getting yourself about lately. I've seen you on a few channels now, but you're popping up all over the place, aren't you?
Yeah, no, you know what it is, Rich. It's networking, and people have been very, very kind, and I've had the DMs and people allow me to be on their platform, because you don't just let anybody on. I've spoke about this very publicly. You do your vetting, you do your check-in, you ask about, because you get the wrong person on this, it's not good, mate. So you do your due diligence, basically.
No, definitely, yeah. I mean, that's definitely the way, because it's difficult sometimes, because you don't always know what people are like, and I maybe stick to people that I know to come on, because I know what I'm going to get, I suppose, really, with you guys. I know we had Anthony on today, which we bent the rules a little bit to get him on, but that's fine.
And I'll never be invited back again.
I can vouch for Anthony. It's all right.
No, he behaved himself. He was good, so that was fine. He's welcome back anytime anyway. But yeah, so I say thanks to you guys. Thanks for running the chat as well. There was loads of chat going on there today. I couldn't keep up with most of it, actually. Loads of guys in there. Mark, a few Marks. Gary was in, obviously Joe as well. Russ was in as well earlier. There was just loads of people in there tonight. So that was really good. Thanks to you guys. Ryan as well, of course, Shane.
Shane, big up Shane in there.
Yeah, big up to Shane and everyone else. Brilliant. So some great stuff going on in us. I couldn't really keep up with all of it because there was loads going on the show as well. But you was all chatting amongst yourselves in the chat anyway, which is good. But yeah, so thanks to all you guys as well. I say obviously for you three as well. Fantastic. Thanks for coming on. Enjoy the game on Thursday. Don't forget to check out Anthony's show tomorrow as well. 1:30. Talking stuff Benfica as well, which is going to be good. So make sure that you tune into that, and I say make sure you subscribe to Albert's channel as well. There you go. You see, seen you on Same Old Arsenal. Yeah, you see, I told you get about. That's what happens. You see, you get on one channel and then you got other channels, and it leads to support for other people as well. That that you see, and that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's about combining. Between us, we've got different audience as well, and it's nice to to get other new people involved in our channels as well. So that's what it's all about, isn't it? So excellent. Yeah. Well, thanks to you guys. Thanks for everyone for watching. And I say enjoy the game on Thursday. Hopefully we'll get through to enjoy more misery probably in the next round. But anyway, it's better to be in it than not in it, I suppose. And obviously the Leicester game on Sunday, which is going to be fun, I'm sure. So yeah, thanks everyone for watching. Thanks for the support. Make sure you subscribe to all the channels. And of course, in the meantime, we always finish the same way, don't we? Come on, you Gunners! Come on!
Love the Arsenal.
Come on, Arsenal.